Welcome to the Trading Sliders Podcast. Here we go, episode number 20 of the Trading Sliders Podcast. I'm Bobby Puckett. Here in the studio with me this week is Kurt the Flash Bennett. What's going on, Flash?
I don't know much. What are you up to, Bobby? Other than working on race cars?
Well, that's did a lot of that this weekend.
Yeah.
A little more than I wanted to be honest with you. Before we get started this week's sponsor is Speed Decals. Walt at Speed Decals. If you listen to the show every week, it probably sounds like a broken record, but give Walt a call if you need anything. Right now, he's doing a bunch of race car lettering, signs, banners. He does a little bit of everything. So if you need anything artwork wise, vinyl signs or anything, give Walt a call at Speed Decals or look him up on Facebook. As we say every week, help the people that help us.
Yeah.
So Walt's been a sponsor since day one. And, we really appreciate everything Walt does for the show. This week's guest, I'm not going to forget it right off the bat. This week's guest is Tony LaPorta. We call him the racing utility handyman.
Yeah.
The guy that can do just about anything to make your program better. Flash and I made the trip up to Indianapolis a week or so ago and sat down in the fancy High Limit office.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, sat down at High Limit and hung out with Tony LaPorta for a good couple hours and had a good time up there. Super cool dude.
Oh, yeah. He's my kind of people. He likes to fish.
Yeah, super cool dude. And he's got a real fascinating story. So when you listen to the Tony LaPorta story, it's it's really neat how guys progress and how things work out and don't work out type thing.
Yeah.
Really cool about that. This week we're going to talk about busy speed weeks. Speed Weeks is up and running, and it is super busy down here in Florida. They have great weather, but there's a lot of work going on. Crashes and injuries. There's been some major crashes in Speed Weeks.
Oh, yeah.
Major crashes.
They tore up some stuff at every racetrack.
Yeah. Fans being fans again. Another issue of fans just being idiots that needs to be addressed, unfortunately. And, just in case you was wondering, Kyle Larson's still the best in the world.
Oh, yeah.
So, that's what we're going to cover, on this week's show. There's a lot going on down at Speed Weeks, but first thing we're going to start off with fans being fans. Go ahead and get the negative right out of the way, and then we can talk about the positive. Daniel Hasselback's trailer got broke into at Ocala Speedway.
Yeah.
While they were at they were racing. I think there's only 2 crew guys on the road with him, so they're in the hot pit area.
Right.
And a guy goes through, rumbles through his stuff, and there's a significant amount of cash missing, some other stuff missing.
Yeah.
Terrible deal, especially for. I mean, it's terrible if it happens to anybody.
Right.
But he's a smaller budget team.
Yeah. Trying to make it down there.
Yeah. Trying to live out his dream. And that's just shit like that just leaves a bad taste in your mouth.
Oh, yeah.
That's And when I say fans being fans, obviously this guy's not a fan of the dirt of motorsports at all, or you wouldn't be doing that.
Right.
So I've seen all kinds of stuff online. They know who it is. They don't know who it is. But supposedly there's some people that at East Bay last year were kind of trying to do the same thing. So they're preying on the racers, so to speak. But hopefully that works out because there's a lot of stuff going on.
Hopefully I don't get caught because there's gators down that area.
Yeah, exactly. Hell, did you see the time that the guy got the trailer stolen and they buried the 2 race cars and everything? That happened down in Florida.
I seen that, yeah.
Yeah, but and Ricky Thornton Jr., he had an issue last week with people doing dumb shit on social media, making death threats and stuff like that. Another thing, as far as like fans being fans and racing in general, did you see that we have some how do I want to put this media beef?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Dirt Vision and Flow have always not really worked together, but not really stepped on each other's foot,
Yeah.
So the Chili Bowl happens and Flow allows Dirt Vision in to do the Chili Bowl pre-race show, and so they provided Dirt Vision with some content.
Right.
And everybody said, "Well, good. Maybe they've squashed all that."
Yeah.
Come to find out, no, not really. So the other night during the World of Outlaw stuff at Volusia, they mentioned the USAC sprint cars when talking about previous drivers, but crickets on High Limit. Like when Brad Sweet come out, absolutely didn't say nothing. And Kyle Larson and Brad Sweet were pretty upset about it. And Flo, I don't think Kyle Larson and Brad Sweet really gives a shit.
Yeah.
But I think the people at Flo that, are paying the big money.
Right, yeah.
So Kyle Larson wore his Flo racing driver's outfit the rest of the week.
He got out and had a Dirt Vision sticker on the wing, but then when he gets out, he's got his Flo racing suit on.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty cool. And then he actually mentioned Flo in his interview there, too, when he
Well, that's what I'm saying. We got media companies, beefing it up a little bit, not really getting along. Pettiness is still out there in the short track world. So that evidently there were some egos and reputations hurt.
Yeah.
Like I said, there were some behind the scenes things that Flo was like, Kyle, when you win, they're waving the Flo banner. So hopefully, Dirt Vision and Flo can squash all that because.
I was flipping between both of them the other night. I'd watch Flo for a while and switch over to Dirt Vision and watch it for a while. I mean, it was a good week to watch racing.
Yeah, there was tons of stuff going on.
Oh yeah, I don't have Hunt to Front, so I didn't get to watch none of that stuff. But
yeah. Well, did you see the Race on Texas? Did you see the modified crash from Race on Texas, Heart of Texas Speedway?
No, I didn't see that one.
I'll have to show you the video of that. So this old boy gets a left rear tire cut down and he's spinning up the track.
Yeah,
which is always bad. But it worked out for him. But he clipped the guys. He come by, barrel rolled about 9 times into the catch fence. I mean, it made Rusty Wallace's wreck look like a fender bender at Daytona that time. I mean, it was bad.
I was just thinking about that the other night. They put Flo on Facebook, or not Facebook, but on
YouTube.
On YouTube for free the whole night. I wonder if that was part of it.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. The whole thing. So we're gonna see if they play nice because USAC goes to Volusia Monday.
Right.
And it's always been, Dirt Vision covers the late model portion.
Yeah.
And then Flo covers the USAC portion.
Right.
So we'll see if both of them will let them. I think that's the reason why I think everybody kind of had a working relationship.
Yeah.
And then USAC and Dirt Car was kind of like, no, it's not how it's going to be. So I don't know. We'll find out Monday.
Yeah.
We'll find out Monday if it's squash because from what I understood at Chili Bowl, everybody was going to kind of work together this year on dual sanction events.
Right.
So we'll find out if it made it all the way to February.
Yeah.
Everybody was good in January, but it doesn't sound like it's going to be too good come February. So, so if you're tuning in to watch USAC sprint cars on Flo, you'll probably have a bunch of downtime because there's going to be about 60 late models. So you'll watch that, and then you have to flip over to Dirt Vision to watch the late models when they come back. But there's no Lucas Oil races this week, so it should be easy to do if you want to watch both.
Yeah.
That's all on fans being... Oh, no. Scratch that. One more thing. I seen where Reds play Screvern. Yeah. They had a ton of race cars.
Yeah.
And there's some guy on there going ham on the track crew and running 15 divisions.
Yeah.
This dude goes on 4M and blasts them. He does Facebook, Twitter, the whole name. I don't want to say his name, bring attention to him. Jerry something was his name.
Yeah.
But evidently, Red's got some real witty guy that works social media.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because he said, Red, the guy, unless it's Red. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe Red's some, some savvy tech guy. But he
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think he knows more about the jambalaya and grits and red clay than he does. But I could be wrong.
I was watching it the other night. I changed the subject, but they was talking about you can go down there and get your entree and your 2 sides and everything down there.
Yes, we're gonna cover Screvern, and that's what I'm gonna talk about. The best food at any racetrack in the country, except for TJ's Crawfish at Talladega, is Red's place. So whoever's running Red's social media account, it got taken down. But it was funny. I should have screenshot it. I was going to send it to you.
Oh, yeah.
I seen it, and I was going to send it to you. And I went back and looked, and it was gone. But it said, don't quote me, but in quotations, Red says if you want to try this shit, buy the track. So I thought it was funny because guys just get. I mean, this dude. I mean, he went at him on Twitter. He went at him on Facebook. I mean, he was pissed.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming he was down there, and because when you go to Red's place, nothing happens in a hurry.
No, you're gonna be there for a little while.
So
actually, I was kind of glad the other night because I got to watch all the late models, the sprint cars, and then I was able to switch over and finished watching qualifying at race.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
That's the way it was.
but I think as a guy from the Midwest or the North, I think he was from either Minnesota or Iowa when I seen his profile. Yeah. He was pissed.
I was looking at my Facebook memories today, and it was 12 years ago today that we was down there for the first time scrubbing.
Was that when we took the car?
Yep.
Okay.
No, not when we took the car. That's the first time we went. Me and you.
Okay. Yeah.
Tanya and Deb went.
Yeah. I said it's been 12 years.
Yep. We went over to Tybee Beach that day. Yeah. And all that.
Damn.
Yeah.
It didn't seem like 12 years. Well, I guess it has been 12 years. I ain't been racing forever.
Yeah.
So, but so that's just all the negative stuff. We're done with that. Start off with Volusia because the World of Outlaw season started at Volusia. And first off, World of Outlaw sprint cars on a half-mile track, unbelievable the speed. Heat races kind of okay because it's hammered down, but all the features were really good.
Oh yeah,
not until the final one, it rubbered up, but all the features were really good. Carson Macedo got the first win opening of the season after breaking his leg down under.
Yeah.
So hat shake to Carson Macedo, but here's what I want to talk about. Right out of the gate, Kyle Larson and Christopher Bell was quick.
Yeah.
I mean, Larson still runs sprint cars, so it's more to be expected.
Right.
Christopher Bell hasn't been in a sprint car in 4 years.
Yeah.
And second night, it did not matter.
Nuh-uh.
Christopher Bell got the win, which is probably the best race of the World of Outlaw stuff. Because Larson backed it in the corner and turned down on him. And it's coming to the line. He got beat by about half car length.
Yeah.
But Christopher Bell picked up the win. And in the famed Kreitz car, Donnie Kreitz, big heavy hitter in Pennsylvania, doesn't really get out much.
Yeah.
So shout out to Kreitz and Christopher Bell.
That's kind of quick for Bell to get to pick up a ride like it that quick too, because he just got turned loose to be able to.
Well, I think
do that stuff.
I seen a story of Bell where a guy that works for Joe Gibbs.
Yeah.
Is related to the Kreitz family.
Oh, okay.
So they already had it in the works, like the car's been open whenever you want to run it type thing.
That's
so
cool.
I think he's going to run about 25 or 30 races in it this year. It looks like.
Yeah.
But Christopher Bell won the second night, and then Friday and Saturday it was all young money.
Yeah.
After Larson got beat by Bell by half the car, I've come to a conclusion. Kyle Larson is the greatest race car driver in the country. In the world, point blank, period.
Right.
But when Christopher Bell outruns him, he just lights a switch in the next few nights. Because like at Chili Bowl, when Bell outran him in the Race of Champions, he was furious, and he was set. And same thing at Volusia. I mean, this week Kyle Larson is the best race car driver there is.
Yeah.
I don't care. You don't have to like him. But it's just facts.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's just a factual statement. When Tony Stewart says you're the best, you're the best.
Yep.
But so Larson left.
I think the first night Larson won. That was a good race too, because he started catching traffic, and I guess the air is so bad on them things when you get behind somebody now.
Yeah.
That they caught up with him, but then he got a couple cautions there, and after he got a caution, they wasn't touching him. He was gone.
No. Yeah. And in the UMP mods, it was Kurt Spalding that picked up the big gator, ended up with 5 wins on the week. And I think he said he's been down there for 16 or 18 years and hasn't won not one qualifying race or anything.
Yeah.
And decided, hell, I'm just going to win 5 of them.
Yeah.
The only thing more impressive was Cole Followay winning 5 of them.
Exactly.
Former guest on the
and in the A-Main Saturday night, last night. Yeah, Saturday night.
Yeah.
He came from 15th to
19th.
19th
to 3rd.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I seen.
I didn't get to watch that one last night. I wish I would have, but I didn't.
Yeah, Followay was hammered. Yeah. Yeah. But Followay said he wished he would have started up front or closer towards the front so he could race with those guys. He ended up 3rd in the Gator points and ended up 2nd in the Speed Week points. But hat shake to Cole Followay. Never been at Volusia.
Yeah.
And Volusia's a different beast. It's not it's a different animal, and but he did have Tyler Nicely there, crew chiefing for him, and I think Nicely's won 7 or 8.
Yeah.
So
a month or so ago, he told us, he said, I think I'm going to go down there.
Yeah.
For somebody just thought they was going to go down there, he did pretty good.
Yeah, he wasn't really he wasn't really sold on going there.
Yeah.
Well, he actually said, I'm going to go if Tyler will go with me.
Yeah.
It's probably a good decision.
Yeah.
Making sure Tyler went with him. So, but Volusia was it was all modifieds for the whole week in sprint cars. sprint cars and modifieds are done at Volusia, but Volusia is not done. So next week, at Volusia, Monday and Tuesday, we have USAC sprints and dirt car late models. And then Wednesday through Saturday to finish up Speed Weeks at Volusia. Got the World Outlaw late models and the big block modifieds, the Beast from the Northeast.
Yeah.
So the big block modifieds will be there. That's going to be those things, especially going around the big track. The sound they put off is, I was talking to a buddy of mine. And he said, "I despise those cars."
Yeah.
I said, "Yeah, but if you listen to them, if you watch them in person, and they're badass."
Yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah, they're pretty cool race cars. So that's Volusia this whole week, Monday through Saturday, you can watch every night on Dirt Vision. You would think these guys would help us out as much as we promote them,
Yeah.
but Monday through Saturday, you got Dirt Vision, and then at Ocala last week, the Lucas Oil Late Model Series was there. And everybody raves about Ocala. I've raced it.
Yeah.
In my eyes, it's just okay.
Yeah.
But I guess those guys race all over the place. They like something that's just different and unique.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Windy Hollow to me.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people, you either really like it or you really hate
Yeah.
it. There's no in between.
Right. Yeah.
But
that place, it reminds me a lot of around here in Ponderosa.
yeah.
Kind of. I mean,
Yeah,
not-
but it don't race like it though.
No,
when you're
no.
on it, it don't really drive it. But it is shaped oddly, about
yeah.
like Ponderosa.
That's what
yeah.
I'm saying. It's just a weird shape like that where you have two different corners.
Yeah, it races more like, well, hell,
Yeah, there ain't really.
like I guess Mount Lawn.
Yeah.
I guess that's what it races like. It doesn't really race like
Maybe half Richmond and half Florence.
Yeah, yeah. You,
Got one big wide turn.
Terre Haute in 3 and 4, and Thunder Valley in 1 and 2.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't really race all that good when you're on it, but or
Yeah.
maybe I just suck there. I don't
Yeah.
know. But Devin Moran took the opening night, and then Superman, picked off 2 in a row. There's a big fuss about about Davenport. He had the underbelly on his
Yeah.
car again, and you're not supposed to run that. And
I seen somebody said something about that. Said, yeah, we weren't supposed to do that after 2025.
yeah. They well, here's what's really funny is so the guy goes, it doesn't make that big of a difference. Well, the next 2 nights he don't run it, and he's back like mid pack. So
Yeah.
coincidence? I don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah, it could be. But Friday night, RTJ picked up the win in the brand new car that they assembled Tuesday.
Yeah.
At the racetrack. Because he tore up all the shit last week.
Yeah.
So they assembled the car at the racetrack in the pits, and then a couple nights later went out and won. Just RTJ doing RTJ things.
Yeah,
And then Saturday, Devin Moran picked up the win. Flow Racing did this little thing. Who's the best late model driver in the country right now? 32 or 20. I think they might need to put 99 in there too.
Yeah, he put on a show last night especially.
Yeah. Devin Moran is he always runs good during speed weeks, anyways.
Yeah.
Like he's gonna be on fire at Volusia. He's really good at Volusia.
Oh yeah.
So
I think their stuff's finally starting to come together.
yeah. Moran and them, they're starting to figure it out.
Yeah, just for not seeing during speed weeks, this is going to be a pretty awesome year. I think you got 6 or 7 guys that are going to be good every night. I mean, everywhere they go.
Yeah, the late. Well, so see, the problem with the late model guys are, not the problem, but they race so much that when a guy does get in a funk, it seems like it takes him a while to get out of it because he's just beaten. I don't know if it's confidence or just wore out.
Wore out, maybe.
Damn, I'm tired.
He might not be as wore out as the team.
Yeah. So, but yes, going forward, and I think this year's World Outlaw late models is going to be incredible.
Oh yeah.
You got a bunch of young kids, and guys like Ethan Dotson and them are running the whole tour. So it's the World Outlaw late models is going to be really fun to watch this year.
I tell you who's not having a good speed weeks, and that's the 3-year Brian Shirley.
Yeah,
Oh
no.
my gosh, he can't catch a break no matter what.
Yeah, Squirrel is.
Did you see him go in the corner the other night when he? It looked like he was turning the pits, but it almost looked like the right front locked up or something. And that's when they caught him from hit him from behind. That was right before what's his name got in his big crash.
Yeah, Squirrel has not had a good speed weeks. He's ready to get back to Chattanooga.
I think he's ready to just load up and go home.
Yeah. Well, the bad thing is he's running the World of Outlaws, so he's got to be there next week.
Yeah.
You got to go to Volusia, where we seen this last week, where shit happens in a hurry at Volusia.
And he's been running good too. When he runs, he's just having bad luck.
Yeah, so sometimes you're the bug, and sometimes you're the windshield. Yeah. And he is definitely not the windshield this week.
Right.
But so Lucas Oil's off for a while, so most of the late model guys will stay down there and race Volusia. But the next Lucas Oil races are, I believe it's March 21st. Let me look here. I got it wrote down. March 21st and 22nd, Atomic and Brownstown.
Yeah.
So they've got a long while off. I say a long while. It's 3 weeks. Yeah, 3 weeks. But the next Lucas Oil race, the next time we can catch them in our area, it'll be the Indian Icebreaker. So.
Yep.
Ocala has USAC sprint cars this week, Wednesday through Saturday at Ocala. So if you're into USAC, if you're into non-wing sprint car racing, and if you're not, there's something wrong with you. But but if you're into USAC, they'll be on flow all week.
Yeah.
Last thing, I didn't get to catch nothing at Alltech. They had the short track Super Series.
Yeah.
But all you need to know is Stuart Friesen and Matt Shepard and Stuart Friesen.
Yeah.
They were 1-2 both nights. So they kind of, that's kind of their playground.
Yeah, those guys are hard to beat.
Yeah. So, but one thing I did catch parts of, bits and pieces, like you talked about, Screver and Red's Place, 247 cars, 33 super late models, and it's the new Southern Thunder Dirt Late Model Series.
Yeah.
Friday night, picked up the inaugural win in the series, Casey Roberts.
Yeah.
Out of Toccoa, Georgia. Haven't seen that name in a long time.
No.
So Casey Roberts picked up the win.
Too, man.
Well, he's really good at like Toccoa, Screven, all those red clay that doesn't have a whole lot of banking.
Yeah.
He's pretty good at. He's always fairly decent at like Dixie and stuff.
Yeah.
So
Screvens, man, that's one of them tracks in a late model, especially where you're on the wheel the whole time. It's crazy how.
Yeah, that
because you got to back it in the corner in one turn. It's kind of a weird shape too, a little bit, because you got to back it in 3 and 4, and then 1 and 2 is a little wider.
Well, it's one of those places that it's a hidden gem.
Yeah.
But like old boy did say, when you get down there, you're not gonna get out there early.
Yeah.
So you'll get to enjoy all of Screvern.
Yeah.
And the best thing about Screvern is their food.
Yeah.
They have the most unbelievable racetrack food you ever. They got a buffet.
Yeah.
They cater at the racetrack, so count my fat ass in.
Yeah.
Like they moved up 10 notches before the cars even hit the track.
And it's not hamburgers and hot dogs. It's
it's grit. It's everything.
Yeah.
Grits, meatloaf, ribs, shrimp bowls. They got it all at Screvern. And then Saturday night, Cody Overton picked up the win. Cody Overton's been he's been on fire here lately.
Yeah. He broke the night before. Was probably the reason he didn't run good that night.
Yeah. But he ran good at Volusia, then he went home, and then he's catching Screvern on the way back. But I think the Southern Thunder Dirt Late Model Series, I think it's gonna be a pretty good series if all the guys stay with it.
Right.
I mean, it's kind of hard to tell because everybody's in that area anyways.
Yeah, so they're just kind of traveling through.
But they had a bunch of really good regional guys. So and we'll be able to see that pretty soon because the Southern Thunder's Late Model Series, they're sanctioning the Tulip Bowl this year. At Clarksville, which is going to be the last one.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen this, but Clarksville Speedway, I didn't even have this on the show notes, but Clarksville Speedway, Lamar Scroggins put a post out in September, whatever it is, 20-something. The racetrack is shutting down. He did sell the racetrack to the city. He said he's too old to be building a new racetrack, but who knows? Yeah. So, but yes, so this is the final year at Clarksville Speedway. So
that's gonna suck because that was a good track.
Yeah, it's
even though my one outing there didn't end well, but it was I still loved racing that place. It was awesome.
Yeah, the racetrack's pretty neat. So I'm gonna try to because I think they got I don't think they have a summer national race this year.
Yeah,
I'm about to look and see. I remember seeing that, or maybe they do got a summer national. I don't know, but I'm gonna try to get down to the Tulip Bowl because they don't run a whole lot of specials throughout the year there. So, but in Scroggins' way though. He said, to the neighbors that's bitching, hope you guys enjoy your new fence I just put up back there. Big tire pile he put in the back of the corner.
Oh, yeah.
So all those houses that he put the fuel jug fence, they extended part of the property, built a new house, and I guess that guy had a problem with it. So he's got about 370 old used Hoosier tires stocked up there.
There you go.
One more on the way out, in Scroggins type way. So, that's That's kind of funny, but to a lot of people, I get where that's kind of being childish. But sometimes you got to pick your battles, and that's one he's going to die on. It looks like so.
Yeah. But hey, if you want to build a house right next to a racetrack, so
yeah, that's for a whole other show. That will get me on a rant bigger, you know what? So and when
we ain't got enough time for that.
We don't have enough time for that one. Yeah, that's a we get snowed in type thing. Yeah. I'll just get on a rant type deal.
Yeah,
because that's a 2-hour bitch fest there. I want to.
Maybe we should put out a midweek rant show sometime.
Yeah, we might do something. If I can get, look, check this out. If we get somebody to sponsor that, if somebody wants to sponsor the midweek rant, there's a lot of shit that I don't care to rant about. I just, we're trying to do something positive.
Yeah.
So if you want a negative version of me, just let me know. I can do that too. I'm actually probably better at that than I am the positive. But all jokes aside, though,
we gotta have a little fun.
Yeah. Anything else, Flash, before we get into the interview?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I think we got most of it covered. Guys, this week's interview, like I said, Tony LaPorta, dirt racing's utility man. He's got a fascinating story. It's time for the Trading Sliders Deep Dives presented by Kentucky Clutch and Performance. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. On this week's Deep Dive, we have Tony LaPorta. He's the jack of all trades when it comes to the racing industry. Cameraman, guy behind the mic, pit reporter, guy that does just a little bit of everything. We'll call him the racing handyman. How you doing, sir?
Man, that's a great intro. I once heard Tony Stewart describe himself as the jack of all trades, but the master of none, because of all the different race cars he drives.
Oh yeah.
So I'll go with that right now. I appreciate the intro. I would definitely say I'm a jack of a lot of trades and definitely the master of none. But I'm really good. I appreciate you guys coming up here.
Well, one thing I want to say is a lot of people that are in the racing industry, they're expert. Well, in their mind, they're an expert at one thing.
Yeah.
You bounce around a lot. Like I've seen you a couple weeks ago at the Chili Bowl. I've seen you there with the video camera, you know, doing different things. And I know that you love being behind the mic. I know that's your first love. But, you know, how do you just justify, you know, I'm going to do whatever it takes to make this happen?
It's exactly, you know, you nailed it right there. It's truly a case of whatever it takes. And yeah, you hit the nail on the head. I do not really particularly love doing the video work. I did it for 2 years with the World of Outlaws. I was a series content producer for them on the sprint car side of things. And I took that job and I've always done the video stuff to stay at the racetrack. I had a guy years and years and years ago when I was in sports car and pavement and endurance road course racing tell me, if you want to work in racing, the best thing you can do is be at racetracks. And the video stuff was a way to keep me there. Just like when you see a driver go on a broadcast. Well, a lot of those drivers don't really want to be on Fox, on NBC. They'd rather be driving the race car.
Right.
But they do it because they don't have an opportunity to drive. And they know, well, if I'm not at the racetrack and people don't see me and hear my name and think about me, they're going to forget about me real fast. Right. So I do the video stuff to I do the video stuff. I did the video stuff to stay at the racetrack, to stay involved, to stay in front of people, to have that chance to go up to guys like yourselves and say, hey, if you hear of any tracks or series hiring, you know, let them know I'm still looking. So yeah, the video stuff, it came out of necessity. The Chili Bowl's where it all started a couple years ago, going out there with Justin Grant and Clinton Boyles actually. And they let me hang out in the pit. Their car owners paid my pit pass. They took care of me. And I'm like, man, all I got to do is hang out. And I did a little bit of posting to social media for them. And then I ramped up the production and got a video camera and, you know, made it more worth their while to spend some money on me. And the Chili Bowl really has been the catalyst for the video stuff. So yeah, I do it to stay out involved in the sport as often as I can.
Well, a lot of people don't know this, but the way that you entered the sport, like Kurt and I, we grew up around racing.
Yep.
Our dads, our grandpas. Like I was a third generation driver. You know, Tony got involved in the sport because of his grandma.
Wow! So, you've done your research.
So Tony's grandma was the one that brought him along into the sport and said, you know, was it Tony Stewart?
Very good.
Okay, so see, I'm getting there. I look dumb, but I'm not all dumb.
Everything Kurt said about you is a lie. You really do your homework.
Yeah, we're gonna keep that out there.
So, but you know, Tony's grandma, they formed a long distance relationship and talking about the races, and that's cool as hell to me because you know I was born on a Thursday and I was at the racetrack Friday, Saturday, Sunday that week. So to me, I just thought everybody went to the races.
Yeah.
But here you are in the world of right in the middle of all the sprint car country, but from Colorado, and Grandma brought you into it. So I mean, how does that happen?
I was gonna say, starting right there, don't say I'm from California. I'll get up and pop you. We were just talking off mic. Everybody likes Bobby. I like Bobby so far, but if you say I'm from California, we're gonna have problems.
Well,
okay.
I don't want to fight you. You're a pretty good sized guy. I mean, I'm from the hood. We can do that, but I'd really rather not.
I got that tone from you. You got that little bit of bite to you when you talk. I can tell this guy's from somewhere rough, probably, that I don't want to go to.
Well, that's about right. They don't tear down good neighborhoods. I'll tell you that. My neighborhood's not there no more.
I like that. They don't tear down good neighborhoods. I like that. Yeah, you did your research. You're dead on about that. Born and raised in Colorado, definitely not the hotbed of racing that Indiana, Southern Indiana, and Kentucky is. Growing up in a state that doesn't really foster motorsports, I was not, born in it like you guys were, but I was introduced to it at a super early age. Mom's mom, my mother's mother, my grandma Sherry, she relocated after she retired down to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. That's right, the tourism capital of the state of South Carolina. Oh, yeah. And where you're guaranteed to go get crabs, and it might not be the kinds you eat.
Well, but you will get damn good barbecue while you're getting those crabs.
Yeah.
That is for sure.
Yeah. No, she moved down to Myrtle Beach, retired down there with her husband, and got a part-time job working the gift shop in the back of the old NASCAR cafe. And I don't know if you guys ever knew about those. They were a theme restaurant.
Yeah. There used to be one in Nashville as well.
Yep. There was one in Nashville. I think there was one in Orlando. I knew about obviously the one in Myrtle Beach, and I think there was a couple, maybe a dozen of them at one point.
I think they had the cars on the top. They actually did their little thing.
Yeah, exactly. So it was just your typical American restaurant, but it was all themed around NASCAR. So they had a stock car on the roof when you came in, and then everything was themed. You could get the checkered flag chicken tenders and the fast pit stop.
Daytona burger.
Yeah, exactly.
Because there's one in Daytona for a while now. Actually, funny story, not to cut you off, but probably 15 years ago, my wife and I had Thanksgiving dinner there because we went down.
We went to brag.
We went to Daytona for the turkey rod run.
Yeah,
and it's like, holy shit, nothing's open. So we're at the big car show. So we had a NASCAR cafe for Thanksgiving.
I just heard about the turkey rod run for the first time last week when I was down in Daytona for the Rolex.
You gotta go.
Yeah, it sounds super. Sounds super cool. Yeah, and the one in Daytona was super popular. Closed down around the same time. All of them did, unfortunately. But no, Grandma got a job working in the gift shop. So she, and this was, God, she was down there probably in like 03. Might have moved down to Myrtle Beach 02, 03. Which for me, and it's only because I was brought up in the sport in that decade, to me that was like the height of NASCAR's popularity, right? That was beating the NFL in television ratings around that time. If they weren't beating them, they were right there neck and neck with the NFL. So NASCAR was super popular. Those were the days where you'd go to the races and every driver had their own merchandise hauler, their own 18-wheeler of just merchandise. Yeah. Kids today that go to NASCAR races are like, that's crazy. It's just one big tent with everybody's stuff in it. So Grandma was working back there, and all of a sudden, just as grandmothers do, start sending gifts for no reason, right? It's your birthday, it's Christmas, it's April, it's May, here's something. And started getting these NASCAR die casts, these little race cars in the mail. And I had never really shown any particular interest to racing or anything. But all of a sudden, these die casts are these really nice die casts, and a lot of them are these orange number 20 Home Depot cars, and the guy driving it's got the same name as me, Tony. So just as a kid, you're like, this is cool. These are bright. These are colorful. These are fast and shine. So start talking with her. Had a great relationship with my grandmother. We always talked some weeks we talk every day. So just every Sunday would turn into, are you watching the race? Do you got Fox turned on? Do you got NBC turned on? And we'd always watch the races and talk about them as they're happening or talk about them after the race. And so, yes, it was a grandmother's post-retirement part-time job and her very generous gift-giving nature that showed me NASCAR. And I fell in love with it, 02, 03, 04. And I from the minute I saw it, I thought, that's what I'm going to do one day. I'm going to be a NASCAR driver. So that was full speed for me from 2003 for the rest of my childhood.
Well, Grandma had good taste too. I mean, Tony Stewart. He, until some young kid from California named Kyle Larson came along.
Yeah.
Everybody in the world was like, Tony Stewart is the most versatile driver since AJ Foyt. Now they're like, Kyle Larson is the most versatile driver since AJ Foyt. I'm like, whoa, what happened to Tony? But Tony Stewart is phenomenal. I mean, he's a legend.
And Tony himself sings Kyle's praise. I mean, he's been quoted in interviews as saying Kyle's better than he ever was, is what Tony will tell you. I mean, hey, from Southern Indiana, right? Couple of badasses from right there.
Well, the funny thing about when Larson first moved to Indiana, I would go and I love non-wing sprint car racing. That's something we got in common. Like, I can go to any race in the world and I can enjoy it, but if it's non-wing sprint cars, especially on a quarter mile, you got me sold.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I seen Larson at Kokomo, and he drives up on the wall, just kind of like what he did at Chili Bowl. Yeah. Everybody talks about how great it is. He did this when he was 16 years old, and he rips around Dave Darlin and Cole Witt. And I call Flash on the way home. I'm like, Kurt, I think I just seen the best race car driver in my life. And he's like, yeah, you've told me that a couple times. I'm like, no, I'm dead serious. Like, he just drove around Brian Clausen. He just drove around Dave Darlin on the wall. I'm like, this kid is incredible. And it's funny how it just all comes full circle, you know? One thing I want to ask you about, we're going to talk about the USAC thing because, I mean, you can't bring up your name and not mention the USAC thing.
Everybody loves to talk about it. I don't mind talking about it either. So, yeah, I'm happy to whenever.
Well, it's part of your journey.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you can't say, all right, this bad shit happened and I'm not going to speak on it.
No.
Which wasn't bad, so to speak. It just had a terrible ending.
No, and I'll explain it when we get to it. But it's like, if that doesn't happen the way that it does, I'm not here at High Limit, where literally we are right now. I'm sure you'll cover it in the intro, but we're sitting in the High Limit offices right now, and I'm not here in this position doing this job that I love if USAC doesn't go the way it does. So not to jump ahead of where we're going, but you're 100% right.
Well, that's what I was going to say, because I remember when you first started for USAC, I didn't know, I mean, eventually we all heard how the story happened, but I didn't know that Klepper was leaving and they brought you in. But I remember turning on Speed Weeks or Race Weeks or whatever they call it, Sunshine.
Winter Dirt Games.
Yeah, whatever they call it now. Yeah. It was Speed Weeks when I was a kid. That's all it was. Yeah. Everything was Speed Weeks.
Yeah.
But I turned it on and I hear your voice and I'm looking on Twitter and it's just a shit storm.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God, like they're beating this guy up. And I didn't know you from Adam, so I'm just like, all right, I'm gonna give you a chance. And the qualifying come out, and I was like,
it was not
whoa.
good.
Yeah, I was like,
it was not good.
Yeah, I was like, whoa. But once the races happened, once the cars got on the track, and I even messaged you. This was years ago. Messaged you because I seen where you was getting beat up, and I seen where Pat Sullivan came to your defense.
Yep.
And I've always been a huge fan of Pat, and I even shot you a message. I was like, hey, I don't know you. You don't know me, and my opinion don't mean nothing. I said, but I think you do a really good job at what you do good at. Yeah. But what you're bad at, you're pretty bad at it. So.
Yeah, and you're right. You're 100% right, and I can just tell that you're not. You obviously you were watching. You were aware of it because you hit on qualifying. And qualifying is where the things came off the rails for me in Ocala. And again, if we want to tell the whole story, we can. I don't want to. I know you guys bounce around a lot. I've listened to the show.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, this is your puppy. We talk whatever you want, however you want.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give the cliff notes, and if you have questions about deeper, I am happy to answer them. But the cliff notes are how I end up in Ocala with USAC is. I came out here to Indiana with the Road to Indy, the junior IndyCar series that followed IndyCar around. I hosted a show for them called Road to Indy TV. It was really just a YouTube show. It was just something that any of us could make with, well, I shouldn't say.
Well, not any of us.
Well,
I mean, you see my setup. I don't think any of us is making that.
And I will admit, it was a very professional production company that Road to Indy paid. They had incredible equipment. It made me look great. So it probably wasn't something any of us could make, but you get my gist. Yeah. It was just a YouTube show. They called it Road to Indy TV. It was Road to Indy YouTube. Yeah. But I was hosting that. I'm out here in Indianapolis. I'm staying with a guy named Chris Wheeler, who was at Bell Helmets at the time, longtime spotter in IndyCar, was spotting for Sebastian Bourdais at the time. He's now involved with Chip Ganassi Racing's IndyCar and Indy Next program. Super, big-time player in the sport is what I'm trying to say. He gets me on the mic to announce an event that he originally agreed to, and he was like, I don't want to do that anymore. I'm making you do it. So I stayed a few days after the Road to Indy race at Indianapolis, and I got thrown on the mic to announce the Purdue University E-Prix. And if that sounds exciting, it's not. It was the Purdue University's mechanical and electrical engineering students. They all built electrical-powered go-karts. And they did a 2-day race around the little they built like a kidney bean, 1/10 of a mile oval, or with Tech Pro barriers in the one of the big parking lots in the infield of the Speedway. And Chris originally agreed to do it. He's like, I don't want to do that. You're doing it. So I stay. I announce the second day of it because the first day got rained out. And I'm just probably like you've done yourself, like we've all done. You step into an environment you don't know, and you're just like, I'm going to fake it. And if they don't like it, they'll call me on it. But if they do like it, then this is roses.
Well, see, that's what I call growing up in the hood. We fake it till we make it.
Yeah.
So, like, I did a front wheel drive race, and I couldn't see a number on the car.
Yep.
My race pass was about 3 laps behind. I had no idea.
That's the worst.
So I look on my phone and I get the top 3, and I'm calling the hell of a race.
Yeah.
None of those 3 were even in the top 3.
Yeah.
But the race sounded amazing.
Right. and that's the faking it till you make it. And quickly, like I told you guys off mic, I have this quickly. I'm already getting way off topic, but so I do this race for USAC for Purdue. Really, USAC was just paid to come put the barriers up, officiate it, put the officials out there. Yeah. Well, I get done doing this e-pre for Purdue, and I turn around and Kevin Miller, the then president of USAC, and Levi Jones. We all know Levi. Yeah. He's now at this point, he's already in his role managing USAC, the circle track. They're standing behind me and they're like, "You're funny." And I'm like, "Well, thanks, but looks aren't everything." And they're like, "No, you're announcing." And I'm like, "Well, thanks." And they offer me the USAC, like, play-by-play job. I can't do it. I'm already going back for another year with Road to Indy. Kevin had the rule, which a lot of series do, which is a good rule. If you can't beat all of them, you can't do any of them because you need a consistent voice. So basically, long story, a little bit shorter, for years. That was 2016, that when we first met. For the next couple of years, we just pass each other at events. I'd see Kevin at the Rolex 24 when I'm announcing for IMSA. "Hey, can you come announce for me?" "No, I've got a full contract, 12 races with IMSA. I'm going to miss a bunch of your events." They wouldn't need a guy. I'd be looking for work. They had Sean Buckley. They had Rob Klepper. They had Chet Christner. It always worked out where when one of us needed the other one didn't need us. So basically, we get to 2020. COVID is like kind of dying down a little bit going into the fall. It was 2020, and I'm looking for work. I'm kind of losing my position with some of my endurance, my road course, my IndyCar stuff. And Levi meets me over across town in Speedway, and we sit down, and he's asking me about, can you design graphics? Can you edit video? And I'm like, yeah, I guess, but why? And he goes, well, if you're going to be the announcer, you need to know how to do all that. And I'm like, whoa, what are we talking about? He's like, Klepper's not coming back. You've been bugging me for years to do this. Let's do it. And this is where things get really sticky, is Rob's leaving. I don't really even remember what it was he was going to do. He was still announcing. He still is announcing.
Still announcing to this day.
Yeah, exactly. But we didn't make it public. And it was mostly my fault because I had a contract with IMSA saying if I was going to go do any other announcing, I had to get IMSA's approval. And I didn't want to get their approval. I wanted to just start announcing. So I told Levi, let's keep it really quiet. I don't want IMSA to know. I don't want anyone to know. In hindsight, that was basically the worst thing we could have done, because we get to Ocala and folks like yourselves turn on the broadcast of Winter Dirt Games and they're expecting to hear Rob Klepper, a fantastic announcer, a wealth of knowledge, a guy who's raced, worked on him, knows everything about him, right? And instead they hear me. And I had never called a sprint car race. I'd never called a midget race. And the biggest thing, back to our original where we got off on this 10 minutes ago, the big thing that bit me was qualifying, because I had announced lap by lap racing for sports cars and open wheel cars and 1,000 shifter kart races. And I've announced rodeos and basketball and baseball. I'm not a rookie at announcing. But 2-lap single car qualifying is one of the most unique things any announcer can ever do, because it's just you and that car. And you have to have stuff to talk about on that car. And if you don't, 2 laps is a long time to fill, plus a warm-up lap, and depending on how the track's configured, maybe a cool-down lap. Yeah. So you're maybe looking at 4 laps here that you got to talk about a guy, and God help you if it's a half mile.
Yeah, that's the longest minute 30 of your life. The funny thing is, because Kurt's gone with me, as I started announcing a couple of years ago, and my first event, I'm like, I can do this. I've been around racing my whole life. I've raced for 10 years. I can do this. Yeah. And my first event, when the cars pull out for qualifying, I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah.
And we were doing 3 cars at a time. So I was really flabbergasted. By the time I'm trying to read something off, the whole session's over. And I only got one guy's stuff out.
Group qualifying is really hard, but in some ways I almost envy group qualifying, because when it's single car 2-lap qualifying, it's really just you in that car.
Yeah.
And I also, because I was new to dirt racing and I hadn't spent the last 10 years watching USAC and the World of Atlas, I didn't know about the spiel you give when a car comes out. You know what I mean? I was used to just, you can go back and look at it on Flow. I can't bring myself to do it because I break out in like a cold sweat when I think about that race. But you can turn that on, and I don't know if it was Cannon McIntosh or Tanner Thorson. One of them was the first out, and I didn't know about the whole. Up next on track in the number 88 out of Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, originally from Minden, Nevada. He's a Chili Bowl champion. He's a one-time USAC National Midget champion. He's got Kubota and Driven to Save Lives on the side of his Stanton-powered, the XYZ chassis. This is number 88, Tanner Thorson. I didn't know about that. So Tanner or Canner, whoever rolls out there, and I just go, all right, well, qualifying's getting ready to start here, and our first car looks like that's going to be the 88 of Tanner Thorson, and Tanner with X, Y, and Z sponsor on the side, and I'm just like, just talking.
Yeah, you're like, I mean, when are we going to start racing?
Yeah, because anybody can call lap by lap racing because there's something going on. All you're doing is talking about what you see. Qualifying is completely different because if you're not an expert at knowing the track, knowing the cars, which I definitely wasn't. If you can look at the car, like I know you have a background in working on them and racing them, you can look at a guy go around the track and you can probably tell me what that car's doing or what the track's doing. And if you don't know all that, you at least need to know the driver and their background. You need to know their stats. You need to know their history. You need to have something funny to say about them. I didn't have any of that. I was just like, that car out there's got the number 88 on it, and it says the driver's Tanner Thorson. We're going to wait for him to come around here and start the clock, and we'll see what he does. And then it was just like...
Silent
crickets.
Well, the funny.
So qualifying, really, when you hit on qualifying, you're dead on. That's how I know you really were watching, because qualifying is where it truly the train came off the tracks.
Well,
and people were like, "This guy sucks," and that's what the consensus was.
Well, that's what I tell people all the time when they ask, how did I get involved in racing or how did I get involved in announcing? It was kind of a joke. I never wanted to announce.
Yeah.
I was at the racetrack and the guy wanted me to be his tech man. He's like, "Will you help me tech?" And I'm like, it was like 100 degrees that day. And I said, "Man, if you got a job up there where I can sit in an announce booth and announce, I'm down." And he goes, "Okay, will you help me measure bodies and tech?"
Until then, yeah.
And I'm like,
yeah.
Well, sure.
Yeah.
If I can go sit up there in the air conditioning.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Okay, I'll see you next week." I'm like, "What?"
Wow.
So I'm an announcer, just like that. So I'm an announcer, and I'm like, "Okay." So I show up, and it's just the first night I thought I did terrible. And the guy next to me, we're down in Wartburg, Tennessee. My first time ever on the microphone. If I can talk, if it's somebody I know and I see, we pull out and we get there, and there's like 35 cars, and I know 2 of the drivers. Like I've only seen 2 of them. I'm like,
your heart just sinks.
Yeah, I'm like, oh my God, I'm not going to be able to do this. Yeah. Like, how in the hell? But no,
that's what it feels like.
I faked it till I made it.
That's what it feels like every single night of High Limit when, you've got our 15, 17, however many full-timers we had last year. And then, you see like East Bay, classic example. We thought at East Bay for the season kickoff, we might have like, I don't know, I think we were expecting 28 to 32 cars. We got to East Bay and there were over 58 cars in the pits.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh man. And then that's when Chase and I just go, we got to start walking. And you got to walk through every pit and talk to somebody. Exactly.
Yeah.
You're writing down.
Start writing everything down you can figure out.
Chase really has the raw deal because since he's up there ripping the qualifying read, up next in the number 49 Napa Auto Parts, Casey Kane Racing with the SYZ underneath it. Chase needs to know those sponsors. So I really feel bad for him because he has to go through every single car in the pit area and get his sponsors, write them down, handwritten from them, whereas I have the easier job. I can just go up and be like, well, Kurt, hey, I've never seen you at one of our races before, so what do you like to do when you're not... And I get to learn the fun stuff about Kurt and Bobby versus having to know his sponsors, his stats, how he ran the last time. I mean, I do need to know all that, but the first thing I go up and talk to a driver in the pit area is about like, just, hey, tell me about yourself. What do you do? Because as the pit reporter, I don't talk the entire time.
Well, that's funny you said that because this past weekend I was at I-75 Raceway in Southeast Tennessee doing an event for Ray Cook. I got a phone call from the guy that I work for. Says, "Hey, Ray needs some help. Can you come down and do it?" I said, "Sure. I'd love to." So I get down there and the first thing Ray goes, "My guy's not here. Can you help me?" And I'm like, because I thought I was going down to call. They had like 10 divisions. I thought I was going down to call like one division.
Yeah.
So I get down there and they're like. Right, so we literally have like 30 minutes before Hot Lap's supposed to start, and Ray goes, the local track announcer, he's sick. He's not gonna be able to make it. Can you do all the divisions?
Yeah, I'm like, that's when I'd go, I'm sick too, my man.
I'm like, are you serious?
Yeah, dude, no way.
So I had like 20 minutes to prepare. Fortunately, with the Southern All-Star late models, I knew enough of those guys where I was okay. And Dwayne Keith, the former series director, he came up there and he announced it. So he did the super late models, and I took care of the other 9 divisions. But fortunately, I announced, I did the on-track interviews, I did the whole deal with like 20 minutes of preparation. And I was like, Matt, the guy that I work for, goes, "See, I knew you'd be fine at it." I'm like, I wish I would have known this coming into it.
Yeah, yeah, because just a little bit of prep, a little bit of research. We had a situation like that this year, or I'm sorry, last year with High Limit. Weekend number 2, we get done at East Bay. I think we had a weekend off, and then we had to go to South Georgia, Golden Isle Speedway, and it's a combined event. It's High Limit Thursday night, Lucas Oil Late Model Friday night, High Limit and Lucas Oil Saturday night. So it was really cool. Kyle was racing Cup in Atlanta, and he got to come run the late model and the High Limit sprint car on the same night. It was a really cool deal. But Thursday night, the support class is like, 305 crate late models.
604.
Sorry, 604. See, there you go.
Yeah.
See, now, was I lying when I said sometimes I don't know what I'm talking about? The 604 crates, and 305 is a sprint car. What the hell am I thinking of?
Well, I mean,
604, 305.
Colorado, California. See, it's the same thing. See what I mean?
Yeah, maybe we'll chalk that up to dyslexia or something. 604 crate late models are racing, and I don't know if if their announcer didn't show up, if there was never going to be one, but we literally get done with High Limit hot laps, and then like we go to commercial or something, and in my intercom I hear Chase being like, "What? Really?" And then we come back on air, and Chase is like, "Well, I just have been told the late model announcer will not be here. So I'm going to be talking you through these late model high laps. I don't know anything about late models, and I hope you'll bear with me." And my heart, dude, literally, I'm telling you, I'm in the infield, and 50% of my brain is like, shit, I'm glad that's not me. Yeah. But the other 50% of me is like, oh my God, I feel so bad for him. Because that's the worst when you're just like, you show up thinking, I'm just going to talk about this. I'm just going to talk about X. And then they look at you and they're like, you're talking about Y and Z. And you're like, damn it.
Yeah,
I'm going to sound like an idiot. I'm going to call these 604s 305s. I'm going to sound stupid.
Well, the funny thing to me was the lady that was, she's been there for 250 years running the press box. When she comes down, she goes, I really like how you gave the Hornet cars the same attention as we gave the late models and mods. I'm like, I only know one style, and that's me. Like I'm going to announce and I'm going to call it, and if it's wrong, hopefully the car's loud enough they couldn't hear me, and if it's right, thank you. So
well, and like you do kind of benefit because I'm presuming there was no streaming of the race.
Oh no, it was on Southern All-Star TV.
Oh, okay.
No, there was plenty of streaming.
I was like, you kind of benefit by the fact that once the cars go green, nobody in the stands can hear you anyway. Right. But the streaming is what always gets you because people at home can hear you.
Yeah, they can hear everything.
They can hear you just fine.
Well, let me segue back to USAC. I know you took a beating, but overall, I've heard you say this before. You were living your best life. That was the funnest time. Like to me, that would be my dream job. I would think it would be, going to races 100 nights a year, announcing, traveling. Like that would be my dream job. But how fun was it versus how much did it take a toll on you because you were getting the shit kicked out of you on social media?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I'll just start by saying the first thing you said was when you led into that was like you said, I knew you were taking a beating. I was. And I'll be the first to admit, I don't think it was an unjust beating. I didn't do a great job. I stepped into, it's like if somebody tells you, oh, I can swim just fine. And then you throw them into a 10-foot deep pool and they start drowning. Yeah. You're going to be a little upset at that person, right? You're going to go, hey, dummy, you said you could swim. And that's where I totally get that people in the sport had a gripe, and it was a legitimate one because Justin Grant was super in my corner about all this, and I don't know if I've ever told this really, but like after
breaking news, right?
Yeah. Breaking news from 5 years ago.
Well, that's kind of the way we are.
He after the weekend was over, I think I flew home from Florida, and him and Clinton Boyles were driving back, and he goes, we had a long phone call, and one of the things he said, which I'll never forget, and it just always stuck with me, is he's like, hey man, just remember, these people are fans that are blowing you up, the majority of them. There were plenty of people in the industry that were blowing me up, but a lot of them were just fans. And he said, think about it. What is the word fan derived from? And I was like, I don't know. That's a big word, derived. What does that mean? Yeah. And he goes, the word fan is derived from fanatic. Fanatical. These people are fanatical about their sport. Anybody who's a fan of anything, fishing, sprint car racing, whatever you're a fan of, you are a fanatic about it. And to be a fanatic means you don't usually come at it with reason. You don't come at it with logic, right? You are just abandoning all reason to support that thing, okay? And so I get really deep, but my point is, I understand why people were upset, because there are people out there who their favorite thing in this world is USAC sprint car racing, right?
Oh, I get that. Yeah,
it's one of my favorite things. And so you have someone who's now the voice, the steward of your favorite thing, and he comes in and you can tell he doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. You'd be upset too, right? If it was your wife, your kids, your favorite thing in this world, if someone mishandled that, you'd be upset about it. So I did take a beating. I don't think it was an unjust one. I sometimes get a little annoyed at Levi Jones for not sitting me down and going, what is your background? Like, Levi never really quizzed me. He never really actually did his due diligence, I think. I love Levi.
Well, in Levi's defense, too, if you're announcing races, like his former race, he wasn't around your former racing.
No.
So he thought everybody knew that type of racing.
Exactly. And to be fair, he's probably thinking, man, this kid's been bugging me for 4 years to do this.
He don't know everything.
Exactly. If he's bugging me this much, he surely must know what he wants. And that's where he underestimated my ability to just be like, listen, I'm a whore. I just want to talk for like whatever it is, whatever you got, I'll talk about it, right? So, and you bring up a great point. I get annoyed at Levi sometimes because I'm like, dude, he did bring me to the shop in Brownsburg, and he sat me down in the USAC production van, the thing I called the races out of for the first 2 or 3 months when I couldn't see the track.
And that's really tough.
It was really tough. But he sat me down in that van with our producer, their producer. I still call him our producer because I love him. He's a great dude. Devin Berkeley, another Coloradoan who got into sprint car racing by just, by hard work and by moving out to Indiana. But he puts me in the van in the closed, locked garage of the shop at USAC, their old building over here by Cruz Pedregon Racing. And he says, I want to see if you can actually do this. So Levi has Devin pull up a midget heat race from like Lawrenceburg Midget Week or something. And he's just like, there's the names, there's the numbers. Devin, hit play. And he hits play on this heat race. And I look at the names, I look at the numbers, and I just start calling it. Again, that's easy. Anybody can do that. If I tell you the names and the numbers, you're just sitting there going, oh, Dayson Pursley slides wide. Kaylee Bryson's going to shoot underneath down the back straightaway. She's got the lead as they come around to complete another lap. That's easy. Yeah. Okay. What he never did, and I have, a little bit of soreness over it, is he never sat me down and said, now let's hear you call qualifying. Because I truly do believe if I could have gotten through qualifying a little bit better than I did in Ocala, things don't get as bad for me as they do.
I agree with that, too. I messaged you right after all that, and I said, I really like your style. And I could tell you was down because you didn't know me from Adam, but you had a conversation with me about it. Yeah. You were like, yeah, a lot of people don't. And just kind of like half-assed, kind of joking, but I could tell it bothered you. And I don't know if you remember this, but I said, there's a guy that used to call races at the Indianapolis Speedrome named Kevin O'Neill.
Yeah.
I said, and this guy was phenomenal, but he wasn't everybody's cup of tea.
Yeah.
I said, your style reminds me a lot of his. And I grew up watching that. So I'm surprised you didn't take off in the Indiana-based area because he called midget races forever.
Well, I want to say something about what you just said, a surprising story about the Indiana area and midget racing specifically, but I want to answer your original question, which you asked was, how much fun was 2021? But what was it like, weighing out the fun with the beating I took? It was fun. It was maybe the most fun I've ever had on a microphone, okay? It was going from track to track, experiencing my first full Indiana Sprint Week, my first Indiana Midget Week, my first full Eastern Storm, and being the voice of all that, right? It was so much fun. When the year started to level out a little bit and I was getting better and I was doing, people would ask me, they're like, well, what do you want to do after this? I'd look at them, I go, nothing, this is it.
Yeah, this is it, baby.
That's what I'm doing.
Yeah, exactly. This is what I'm doing and this is what I want to do. And I'd look at a guy like Pat, which I really hope I can spare a few minutes to talk about him in a little while, because he was incredible.
Oh, Pat Sullivan is he's the racing god guru in Indiana.
Oh yeah.
I don't know why he likes me, but he does. And I love Pat Sullivan.
I can say the exact same thing, and I have reasons why he shouldn't like me, and he still does. But to your point, 2021 was so much fun. I loved it. I was traveling the country. I was doing all that stuff that I read about Tony Stewart doing in his book that he wrote about his time racing sprint cars. You know, you're going from track to track. You're driving all night long. In 2021, I developed my ability to drive till the sun comes up, which I still have to this day with high limit, which has come in handy.
Well, that's a good thing because you guys are all over the place.
Right. And in 2021, I found out I can drive all night without having to stop, and it's not a great. I don't love it, but but 2021 was so much fun. But I will also admit to you that it was a very hard year on me, and I don't love my generation's all into the mental health and the safe space and all that. I'm not that kind of guy, but I will just admit to you that that season would wear on me night after night. I'd get back into I got enlisted to drive in one of the pace trucks, like the Toyota TRD pace truck that pulls the Victory Lane trailer around the country. I was in that truck driving it with, I don't know if they were called interns, just young dudes working. I mean, they were paid. They were employees of USAC. A kid named Keegan Flatt, one of the video kids, Matthew Borders, and another one of the kind of just floater track staff, USAC staff guys, Andrew. And so those kids were like in their 20s, but they're a few years younger than me. And I felt terrible for them in the moment. And I feel terrible for them now because I'd get back into the truck at the end of a night and I might not have had a great call. And I'd be getting blown up on Twitter. I'd be getting texts going, why'd you say that? What were you doing? Tracy Hines would message me and be like, just calm down. Quit yelling. I mean, you're like, oh, this is Tracy Hines. This is a good, like, I need to hear that. But you're also like,
damn,
God, he hates me. You know what I mean? He didn't hate me. He just wanted me to quit screaming into the microphone. But where I'm going with it is I'd get into this truck with these three kids who were just excited to be on the road. They were working. They probably thought I was a decent guy. We'd get in that truck and get done like the Eastern Storm. We'd get done at like, somewhere in Pennsylvania. And we're like, okay, we're going home tonight. And I'd be so pissed at how I did on the mic. I'd be like, let's go. And I'd shut the door. I'd put in my iPhone. I'd put the address in. I'd put on the saddest country music. I love sad country music. I love sad country music. I'd put in the saddest shit I could find, and I wouldn't talk. And we would just drive. And those guys would just have to sit there and be like, I mean, they didn't talk either.
They're like, come on, Tony, put on some 42 Doug. Put on some Kevin Gates. He's like, nope, Dwight Yoakam, baby, all the way home.
They were probably just like, speak to us. Like, let us know we're not going to drive into the oncoming traffic tonight, right? So it was a super fun year. But I can tell you, people that were around me, my girlfriend, really close friends, not my family because they don't live here. They're still back home. They didn't see me night in, night out. But I can promise you, if you went to the people that were super close to me, they would tell you, I took 2021 so seriously and I took my performance so seriously and I was so mad at myself. I beat myself to getting mad before anybody else could get to it on Twitter. Before anybody could comment how bad I did, I was already telling myself, you messed that up. Why'd you say that? That was the wrong thing to do. You called that car the wrong number. You said the wrong name. I was miserable off the mic in 2021. On the mic, I was having a blast. Off the mic, I was a bear to be around, and it was not a good time.
Well, see, I could kind of tell that, and like I said, we don't have a relation. I'm not going to say her like I know you in passing, but I could just tell the few times I've seen you at the racetrack. I've seen you at Hobstadt. And, we're walking in and I say, hey, how you doing? And it wasn't like you blew me off, but I could just tell, I'm like, that's somebody that's not really enjoying what he's doing.
This was in 21?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, that's somebody, it was sprint week, or maybe it wasn't spring. Maybe it was at the end of the year, the Hustler or something.
I'll tell you this, if it was that Hobstadt race in the fall, I'll tell you this right now. You might have just seen me after I got probably the worst ass ripping I got of the year.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was the Hustler.
I got destroyed at Hobstadt by Levi and Spridge.
Okay,
we had just been in Huset's the week before for that High Banks Nationals.
Yes,
thing.
That's exactly what it was. Yeah,
and and this is I don't mind talking about this at all. And this won't be one of those things that I message you tomorrow and be like, can we take that out? Okay. But I'll just tell you kind of a story that I've never really told anybody. We were at Huset's, and it was USAC sprint cars and midgets. And there was already a bunch of controversy that weekend because we hadn't communicated with the track that Pat and I were both going to be there. The track announcer, Sean Neistat, he presumed he was going to be calling the races with me. We told him Pat was coming, so he ended up having to like unceremoniously bow out. And so we go into the weekend with all this drama already because it's like he kind of felt like I was like kicking him out of his booth.
Yeah.
Which I'm just like, bro, I promise you that's not. By this point in the year, I'm probably like, listen, you just called a race.
You can have my spot.
Yeah. No, not really, because by the end of the year, things were getting better. And I really was having a good time. But I never wanted to. I mean, we could record a podcast on interactions I've had with track announcers alone. As a traveling guy, some track announcers are just heaven to work with, and some of them act like you're taking the food out of their mouth.
I know exactly where you're coming from that. Because, like I said, I've only been doing this this is my third season, and most places we go with the Cumberland Plateau Modified Series that I announced for, it's great. But there's some places when you walk in and they're like, yeah, you're over in the corner. I'm like, I can't see. The monitor's over here. I don't care.
Yeah.
This is where I sit. I'm like, okay, well,
and
I'm
it's
sorry.
rare.
Yes.
And I do want to get out there. It's rare, and there's not a lot of them. But yeah, whether it was 21 or these years with High Limit, you do go to some places, and most all of them are like super courteous. Either they want to know if they can work with Chase and I, or back then Pat and I, or they just get out of your way. But again, there are those 5% of the tracks where the announcer's like, nope. I built this booth with my bare hands, and my kids will eat off of the money I make in it tonight. Yeah. It's like, I don't want to stop your kids from eating, man. Yeah. I just want to be able to feed myself tonight too.
Want me to go get you a cheeseburger?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, they got two. They got 2 for 1 as soon as the sprint car feature rolls out.
But we were so we go into Huset's, and it was already kind of just kind of tight, right? Because you're like, man, Sean's mad at me, and this is awkward, and Pat didn't know what to do, and I'm like, damn it. So we go through that weekend, and it was okay. They had that 100-lap midget race, and somebody blew a tire, and I, of course, missed it. And I'm like, don't know what happened to Chase Randall. And people are texting me. They're like, he blew his right rear. He blew his right rear. He blew his right rear. And I'm like, all right, we're finding out he blew his right rear. And it was like I could write every excuse in the book. It was dark. He was in a poorly lit part of the track. Whatever. I didn't see it. So
at Houston, it's you're 4,700 miles from the track.
Yeah,
too.
Yeah. But anyway, we get out of Huset's, and then we get over there to Hobstad that next weekend. And Levi and Spridge, I mean, I came out of the booth. I was kind of doing all right. I'm like, hey, what's up, guys? Ready to go? It was like 2 hours to hot laps or whatever. And they look at me, and they're like, why are you smiling? And I'm like,
shit, we're at one of the best racetracks in the country.
Yeah,
that's why.
Yeah, because I'm working for the United States Auto Club. Like, what are you talking about? I love it. And it was alleged that a car owner came to Levi after Huset's and said, it's like August or September at this point. And he's like, your announcer's still getting our cars wrong. And I will stand I'll put my hand on a Bible. I'll stand out in the pouring rain, whatever you want me to do. I didn't mess up cars at Huset's. Maybe he misheard me. Maybe I did mess him up. I don't know.
But here's the thing. If you did, okay, move on. It's not the end of the world. I mean, yeah, it sucks for that car owner because he's got sponsors, and I get it, but it's not the end of the world here, guys. I mean, he's still a person and he's still doing his job. So
and I'm with you on that, but I'm also like, okay, I can see where he's griping because I've already struggled and people are annoyed with me, and so anyway, we get to Huset's, we get out of Huset's, and this car owner is blowing Levi up. This guy's messing up my car numbers. He's calling the wrong car and the wrong driver, and so Levi and Spridge have that in their ear, and they come to me and they're just like, You need to get it together. Levi's like, if I can't do this anymore. He's like, we're almost done with the season, and you're still screwing up. And I really had been on a good run, I thought. I was like,
I'm figuring this shit out.
I was like, dude, my Twitter DMs tell me to quit or like down to 1 a week. Like, this is really good times for me right now. And so again, a prominent car owner with USAC comes to them and is like, your guy is still messing up. So Levi and Spridge, they just break me down. They're like, Spridge looks at me and he goes, I don't care what you're doing the rest of the season. If you're not touching every single car in the pit area that's racing with us before the night begins, you're not doing your job. And I will admit, I still to this day try to practice that. And it was something that I needed to hear at that time. And it was, there's support classes, there's cars that I'm not responsible for. But if there's 38 USAC sprint cars in the pit area, Tony, you need to touch every single one of those 38 cars and speak to someone with that car. And I didn't want to hear it at the time, but I needed to. And so there's a real good chance that when you said hey to me at Hobstop that night, I might have been walking to go touch my first race car because I had just been threatened within an inch of my life for my job.
Well, I could just tell. Like, I was like, man, it's because we had a few interactions on Twitter. I was one of the positive interactions. I never told you sucked. But I was like, God, this is not going to go good at the end of the year. Like, I just knew that because I could just tell when I got on fast. I'm like, man, I really hope he lands on his feet somewhere.
Yeah.
And when we interviewed Pat, we talked about it beforehand, and I was like, man, I really like Tony. He goes, Tony's a good dude. He goes, Tony is great. He goes, but this way we can segue into Pat. But he goes, Tony is great. He goes, but he just was so overwhelmed. And that's kind of the feeling I got when I was seeing you at Hopstop that night. I was like, he's got a lot on his plate, and it looks like it might be catching up to him.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely was. And like I said, all I wanted was another year to now that I knew the cars, I knew the drivers, I knew the track. I mean, again, I won't lie. Like a guy tweeted at me one time, and I knew he was trying to stump me. He's like, I tweeted a photo of the track, right, at somewhere, and he goes, would you call that heavy or dry slick? And I knew what he was doing. He was trying to get me to say the wrong thing. Right, yeah. But I'll also admit to you guys,
that depends on where you're at in the country, though.
Yeah, because we was at West Memphis, Arkansas one night, and this jackass behind me said, this is the driest racetrack I've ever seen. And I turned and looked at him, and I was like, you can't be serious. Like, they could race boats on this damn thing.
Yeah. Well, we went to West Memphis with High Limit last year, and I stood there and watched water like boil up from underneath the dirt because that river. And so even now that I've had some years in the sport, I know exactly what you're talking about. But I will come clean, and I will tell you too, and everybody who's listening to this, and I've told this to other people. At the beginning of the year, in 21, when I first got into dirt racing, and I was the USAC announcer, when I was the guy, you could have come up to me at Ocala and said, well, would you call that dry slick? Or probably not dry, because that would have given it away. But if you would have looked at me at Ocala in 21 and said, is that track slick or heavy out there? Well, I probably would have thought, well, I just saw him put water on it, so probably slick.
Yeah, I'm going to bust my ass.
Yeah, that's not just slick, friend. That's slippery, And of course, now it's like it didn't take me many months following those cars to realize, all right, well, that's heavy and slick are different things. And but I jumped into a pool that I thought was 5 feet deep, and it was 500 feet deep, and I regret it. But if I don't do that, I don't meet Pat Sullivan, and he was one of those guys who was just he had every reason. So when Levi brings me on, he's like, listen, I need a flow announcer to be different than the PA announcer. He goes, and he never once mentioned Pat. Hand to God, he never once badmouthed Pat or anything. He just said, because they'd go to races too where Pat wasn't the PA announcer, and they'd just have the track PA announcer. And Levi's deal was, he goes, I can't keep going to races and us take the PA feed into flow. He goes, because I got people at home texting me, asking me to quit announcing that the Nissan Altima in row 4 of the parking lot's got its lights on, and they're tired of hearing about the 2-for-1 chicken tender sale after the feature's over. He's like, we need our own flow announcer, and we'll keep Pat and be our PA announcer, which totally makes sense. I'm a firm believer. Major professional sports do this. The stadium announcing crew is not the broadcast announcing crew. No. You cannot do both the same way. Right. One day, sprint car and dirt track racing will get to the financial heights where you will have an at-track announcing team and you will have a broadcast announcing team, and they'll be completely separate.
Yeah, because that's two totally different things.
It is. It is.
Like, that's something I'm struggling with. Like, are we streaming? Okay, we're not streaming tonight. Okay, because now I got to talk to everybody here at the racetrack. Oh, okay, we're streaming tonight. Damn. I only got to talk to half of these people at the racetrack. I mean, it's tough.
Like Chad Cunningham, the track announcer at Lawrenceburg, does a great job at this because he knows he's talking to the people in the grandstands 15 weekends out of their 18 weekends, however many they race. So you'll be there and you'll hear him say, and now folks, when you hear us refer to things like turn 1 and turn 4, well, turn 1, if you're sitting in the front stretch grandstands, that's the corner to your right. Yeah. And turn 4, and you think to yourself, well, surely nobody needs to hear that, especially people tuning in on Flow that pay $150 a year to watch dirt track racing. Right. But there are people in the grandstands who have never been to a race. Yeah. And they don't know what he means when he says, because they look at it and they go, there's 2 corners. It's turn 1 and turn 2, right?
On this side, so one's down here.
Yeah, exactly. And Lawrenceburg's got seats on the back stretch. Yeah. So you're dead on. People listen to this might go, why do you need 2 announcer crews? You're just calling racing. You're not, because you got 2 very different audiences. You got a group in the grandstands that need to know when the beer sales stop, and they need to know when the 50-50's happening, and they need to know when the parking lot's going to close, and all these things. And you got people on Flow who don't need to know any of that, but they also need to know these specific things to the streaming. They need to know about the sponsors that are sponsoring the broadcast. They need to know about this and that and all the other things. So Pat was great, and why he should have a huge problem with me was we went to Ocala, and I knew who Pat Sullivan was, but I didn't really care, as shitty as that sounds. And I don't mean that in the sense of like, I don't care who you are. I didn't have a reason right then and there to care. I'm in the van. I'm in this blacked out room with the monitors in front of me. I'm calling the race just to the people on Flow. Pat's up in the booth. He's talking to the people in the grandstands. That's who he's announcing to. And as the spring went on, Spridge and the people at USAC were like, this ain't working. You need to get out of that van, and you need to be able to see what's going on around you and be around people who can hit you and be like, no, watch that battle. Watch that battle. Watch that battle.
Yeah.
So
why do you care about the yellow car?
Right, exactly. No, truly. And so Pat had his gig as the PA announcer, and I wasn't really giving him any respect. I wasn't giving him any time. And he kept telling me, hey, if you want to try the booth, if you want to move up here with me, it's all you're welcome. You're welcome anytime. And he was just so gracious. And then finally we go to Kokomo the week before Let's Race 2 at Eldora, because at Eldora you have to announce from the booth. There's no way to do it from a van. So Spridge is like, you're going to the booth at Kokomo. And it works there because they have a track announcer, and Pat wasn't going to get rooted out of his spot. So probably what happened was they told Pat not to come to Kokomo, and they instead put me in that spot up in the booth. And at no point was Pat ever cross with me. And he absolutely could have been, because as an announcer yourself, you guys have both raced. I compare announcers to drivers. There's only so many steering wheels. There's only so many microphones to hold out there. And everybody thinks they can do it better than the guys who are holding them. Yeah. So Pat has this dumb, I don't even remember how old I was, 27, 28-year-old dude who doesn't know anything about the sport that Pat's lived his whole life in. And they're telling Pat, hey, why don't you sit a few weekends out? This kid's going to go up there and do it instead of you. Pat had every right to go, screw that, dude. Yeah. No way. If you guys care about your product at USAC, you need to quit messing around with this dumbass. You need me to stay in the booth. And he was within every right to say that, but he never did, because he knew the only way I was going to get better was if I got up there into the booth and called more races from that vantage point. He was incredibly gracious to me. He was always hospitable up in the booth. And when I'd be calling a race and I'd have Spridge screaming at me from across the booth that I was doing something wrong. I mean, look, we're all wearing headsets right now. Yeah. If someone over there starts screaming at us that we're doing something wrong, we can't totally understand. It's a little tough to take that in, right? Also, you're calling a live race. Yeah. When I'd be getting hollered at from 6 feet away that, what are you doing? Why are you watching that battle? Can't you talk about, I mean, I that's what I would hear. Pat, after the race was over and we'd go to commercial, Spridge might step out of the booth. He might have to go do something, whatever. Pat would be the guy who would take his headset off and look at me and go, it's a car race. No animals were harmed. Everything's going to be okay. Yeah. Don't let him don't let him get to you, is what he would say. And it's not because Pat was going to shit talk Kirk Spridge into me, but it was just that he could see me. It's not like I was on the verge of tears, but I was visibly like, oh man, dude, I'm doing bad at this.
I'm screwing up again.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what it's like. Yeah. You get in your head. If you get called out, then you're afraid about what you just got called out for, and then you make another mistake, and then you keep making them, right? So
once that snowball starts, especially on the microphone, once that snowball starts rolling, it doesn't slow down.
No. And thanks to the miracles of streaming, it's all being recorded. Yeah, and people can go back and watch and listen and post it and
send it to you. Say, look, dumbass.
Yeah. And so Pat Sullivan was incredible to me. And when the West Coast swing came and they said, no, Pat, we don't need you, Tony's going. Whether he wanted to go or not, he could have been like, dude, I've been doing that for a long time. I've been making that road trip. I've been going out there and calling those races and calling the finale. But he never once was destructive towards me. And I've worked with plenty of announcers and other people in this sport, in the other kind of racings I've come from, in stick and ball sports, where guys with microphones will lay out and try to trap other guys with microphones, just like drivers will do it to each other. Pat never once did that, and he did the exact opposite. In fact, he was always in my corner. He helped me. He taught me. He worked with me. That dude is, I mean, he's an actual physical saint, I think.
I love Pat Sullivan. I grew up with Indiana's Thursday Night Thunder.
Yeah.
So, I'm a kid, and they're on TV, and I'm like, hell, it's only Bloomington. I'm 16. I'm like, I'm driving to Bloomington tonight. You can go and watch sprint cars. And Pat Sullivan was a guy that I always had so much respect for, because he got every aspect of the race correct.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure Pat probably thought some nights, hey, I've called this bad, I've done this wrong. But when you sit back and watch Pat Sullivan, the way he engages with the fans, the way he engages with the drivers, the way he tells stories, like, there'll be something going on the track, and if it gets spread out and it's not really, like, a lot of us, we'll fake it till we make it.
Yeah.
Pat will just kind of let that happen and engage into something else. And Pat Sullivan, to me, is like, it's a lost art what he can do.
Totally.
I absolutely have the utmost respect for Pat Sullivan, and I don't know why. Like, we've kind of hit it off. Like, I shot Pat Sullivan a text during the PRI show, and he's doing the USAC thing. I was at work, and I shot him a text and said, "Hey man, just listen to you. Sounds great. Thank you. Looking forward to the season. Looking forward to hanging out with you." And this is in the middle of doing a live TV show. Pat Sullivan texted me back in like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the kind of guy, and he has no reason to text me back. You know what I'm saying? That's just the kind of guy he is.
He's a humanitarian in every sense of the word. And I think what you just said about him, it's like a lost art. He can do things that a lot of people, what Pat's really great at is telling a story.
Oh, yeah.
And he can weave what's going on the racetrack into a story about the people at the racetrack. Yeah. And so many of us, I will liberally lump myself in there as part of the guys that talk about racing for a living. So many of us are not good at that anymore. It's just, well, here's his stats, and here's what he did last week, and here's what he's doing next week. Here's his sponsors, and here's this and that. I try very hard with High Limit, with my time, to tell stories about the people in the sport. But Pat is the master of it. He knows everybody. He's his like the thing I loved about Pat. One of the things I loved about Pat is we do those Silver Crown races together, because that was Pat's one thing. Yeah. He's like, I'm not missing those Silver Crown races, and I'm like, dude, absolutely, I want you to be here. And he was so good at, when we would do driver intros, he would introduce you to the driver, and he would tell you the crew chief for every single car, and that wasn't a requirement. It wasn't like on the list there was a slot for driver and then crew chief. He knew those guys, and he knew that they needed their credit. He knew that those guys needed to be acknowledged. So Pat's very good at telling a story. He's the consummate public address announcer, where when racing's not happening and he has to go off, like when nothing's going on the track, he's being paid by a promoter, by a track owner, by a series, by anybody, whether it's IndyCar or Joe Spiker at Bloomington. There can't be dead air. There can't be downtime. These people need to be hearing something. It's a story. It's a stat. It's an update. And Pat is so good at just keeping the ball rolling.
Well, and I agree with that 100%. Now, I want to segue into this because now that you're at High Limit, and you're not announcing, you're doing the pit reporting. Yeah. And I'll be honest, I think you're a great announcer, but I love you doing the pit reporting.
Thanks.
Because you're kind of like what we just talked about. You kind of try to bring everything in. You kind of try to tell a joke. You're always the butt of the jokes of the crew. They'll say something, you throw something down to you, and you roll with it. But you bring in an insight that I find is real fascinating, because it's not like you've been around the sport. So I know as a fan, as someone that just started announcing, I know that you've had to work hard for this. It's not something that you're just like, okay, I grew up around sprint cars, I know what's wrong. So you kind of just bring it all back to circle, and you don't make it about you make it about the sport, but you got your flavor to it. And I like that.
I appreciate that. The short story I have on that is just when I was at that show, Road to Indy TV, you can go look it up. I'm not trying to shit talk the series, but it's single-seater junior open wheel formula cars, right? It's these kids that are trying to get to IndyCar. And I'll just call it like it is. It's rich kids, right? Because these cars are extremely expensive. I mean, it makes sprint car racing look like, like playing in the sandbox or something, right? The money these kids spend, their parents spend, their family spend for them to go race and try to get to IndyCar, it's crazy. You guys wouldn't believe me if I told you what some of these families spend to go do 12 races a year in a junior IndyCar, right? But the point is, not only is it expensive, the racing's just unfortunately not that great, because they're these really kind of underpowered, over aerodynamic sensitive sleds, right? So people, what's the show called? Trading Sliders here. Yeah. You might see more passes in hot laps at a sprint car race than you would in a race with some of these cars. And I'm not knocking that, because that's just the type of cars they are, right? It's not the kid's fault. It's nobody's fault. It's just the kind of car it is. Okay. But where I'm going with this is, at Road to Indy TV, I show up my first year and I'm like, oh, this is great. I love cars. I want to talk about, the shock adjustments. I want to talk about the aerodynamics of these cars. I want to talk about how the tire pressures, and the people who run the show are like, we're not talking about any of that. And I'm like, what are we going to talk about? And they're like, we're going to talk about the only thing that we can sell on this show. And that is the kids who do it. We have to make these kids so relatable and so marketable that the kids who we're trying to get, 14 to like 21-year-olds, watch this and go, I don't care about the racing, because the racing wasn't good enough to sell. Yeah. I care about this kid, Oliver Askew from Florida. He plays the guitar. He goes surfing. He goes fishing, deep sea fishing with his buddy Kyle Kirkwood, who also races. Oh, and then on the side, they do this car racing thing. Our deal was, if we can get our hooks into these fans, into these kids, by making the drivers the product, well, then they'll come to the show, they'll watch anything, right? It's the exact inverse in sprint car racing. The racing is so good. People almost sometimes don't care about the drive. They don't care to learn about the drivers, but the drivers are the best part. They're these hard-nosed, badass, working-class guys who stay up all night getting their race car ready. Maybe some of them have day jobs. If they don't, they got families, they got wives, they got kids, and they still go out on the road and they pick up these $20,000, $50,000, $100,000 checks, and they go down the road working on their race cars, driving the hauler, pulling the t-shirt trailer. And those are the stories we should be telling, right? Yeah. Because I'm a firm believer. You could mute USAC broadcast. You could mute Outlaw, High Limit. You don't need Chase. You don't need me. You don't need Johnny Gibbs. You don't need any of us to tell you that the racing's good, right? Yeah. You can just watch it and know the racing is really good. What you need us for is to tell you about why you should like Justin Grant, and why you should respect what Brady Bacon does, and why Brad Sweet isn't just a badass race car driver, but he's a businessman with a mind like nobody's business. So that's where I come at it, is like, dude, you know the racing's good. I don't got to tell you about that. And also, to most of our fans, if I come back from the pits and I go, yeah, I just heard, they're going to put a few turns into the torsion stop, and they're going to put an extra pound of air in the right rear, and they're going to raise the nose, a little bit. Who watching is going to go, oh, good idea?
Oh, they're going to be badass.
Right, exactly. Because I can tell you the God's honest truth, I wouldn't know what any of that would do. Yeah. Right? You've worked on them. Yeah. You guys you might know a little bit better. But so many people watching on Flow, and a ton of those people in the grandstands, they don't give a shit. Yeah. They want to know, why should I go buy that guy's t-shirt?
Yeah.
What does he do with his kids when he's not racing? Yeah. What is his hobby? Oh, he fishes? He hunts? I wonder if anybody else in the grandstand here fishes or hunts. It's a freaking dirt track. Yeah, of course they do. Yeah. When Mitchell Moles decided to do all of his Bass Pro Shops themed t-shirts and gear, genius, right? Yeah. I mean, Brian Brown's got a shirt like that. You're in this super blue collar, working man demographic. Push those stories. Nobody cares about what you're doing to the race car in the pits. They can't relate to what it's like to drive or work on one of these. So make them relate to what it's like to be a dude racing them.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because you're talking about like merchandise and stuff. And I've said this before. I'm like, Brady Bacon may be a genius.
Yes.
It's actually CC on.
Yeah, I was just going to say it's him and his wife. Yeah, yes.
But I've never seen so many dudes walking around the racetrack in pink and teal shirts.
Yeah,
and it's all because of Brady Bacon. Yeah. Like, they gear their stuff towards kids. And I know they've always been merchandise. There always has. But it seems like Brady Bacon is taking it to the whole nother level.
In the non-wing world, certainly he cracked a big code, right?
Yeah.
And, I mean, one of the moments I can't believe I was involved in, Terre Haute in the spring, in May, he flips in qualifying,
yard sale.
Right? He flips it out of the ballpark, I said. And they take that. I don't think it's my quote necessarily, but it's that image of him flying through the air at Terre Haute, and less than a week later, that's on a t-shirt. Yeah. And to this day, I'll be at high limit races, and I'll be behind somebody in the concession stand line, or waiting to go use the restroom, and I'll see that t-shirt, and I'm like, oh my God, I remember announcing that and praying to God Brady was okay.
Yeah.
And they take that stuff and they go, okay, he lived, he's all right, nothing's broken on his body. Let's put it on a t-shirt.
Yeah, let's make some money.
Yeah,
we got shit to fix.
Him and Ciciana, when they promote races, they obviously have their car, their team, but oh my God, the merchandise, they are just, I mean, they could write books on it. They could teach classes on it.
Okay, well, we would be doing injustice if we didn't talk about High Limit a little bit. I mean, we're sitting here in their office.
Yes.
So we have to.
Yes, that's Kubota High Limit Racing.
Kubota High Limit Racing with the Midweek Money Series trophy right over my shoulder.
Yeah.
So, how fun is it again to be back on the road with a group like High Limit?
It's great. I mean, we were just talking about this off the mic. It's no secret, right? It's a lot of the Outlaw staff. The year started with a little bit of the All-Star staff and some of the folks that were a part of that group. It's kind of transitioned almost now to just a good, healthy portion of former World of Outlaws staff. And that's because the World of Outlaws are really good at teaching people and creating people that can do those roles really well. And where it's great for me and the other guys on the staff is we all know each other, right? Yeah. So it's super fun. Chase and I, this is the thing that a lot of people say, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but a lot of people come up to us and go, man, you guys are so good together. You guys are so funny. You're so good together. You must be, a lot of people ask us, have you guys just been friends forever? No, not at all. Actually, like when I met
Chase, I don't even like Chase.
Some days it gets really close to that, and he'd say the same. Yeah. It's 4 of us in one rental car. Brian Walker, our social media guy, Anthony Carini, our timing and scoring official, myself, and Chase. And we had that's us all year. We're in that car together all year, and we do some road trips where it's 4 weeks in one rental car, and then we go break off and room together. Walker and I, Carini and Rodman. And if you think there aren't days where we want to actually hurt each other, you're crazy.
and being on the road with B-Walk, if there's a punch thrown, he's going to stat it up. Like, it's going out.
Yeah.
So if you guys start throwing licks, he's going to be like, round 1, Tony got 4 in.
Yeah, exactly. But no, like, so I met Chase in 2021 at Eldora. He was the pit reporter for Dirt Vision. I was announcing for USAC. The USAC and Dirt Vision trailers for the production guys park right next to each other, and I meet him. And I've told him this story before. Devin Berkeley, who was at Dirt Vision, now is the USAC producer, he introduces me to Chase. I'm like, how's it going? And she's like, how are you? And I was like, dude, this guy's, how's he on TV? Like, he's boring. Like, what are we talking about right now? And I just didn't know him very well, right? And then so in 2022, I come over and I work with the Outlaws, and people ask me, yo, you guys must have spent so much time together. You guys must have really hung out together. We didn't, because Chase was employed by Dirt Vision. He was a contractor for Dirt Vision, and he rolled around in the Dirt Vision production truck. He'd go from race to race, hotel to hotel, everywhere in the Dirt Vision truck. I was with Walker my first year because he left in 23 to go to High Limit, and Jake Ingram, our signage guy. And we got stuck with the first year was rental cars. The second year we were in the pace truck. But my point is, Chase and I were never around each other. When we were at the track, he was doing his pit reporting. I was holding the camera, making videos for the Outlaws. We just didn't spend time together. We'd always end up in different hotels. I can count on one hand probably the nights over 2 years, 22 and 23, that I spent with Chase. Rainouts, off days in between races, travel days. I can count on my hand probably the amount of times we hung out together. But in those 4 or 5 times, every time I hung out with him, he was great. He'd always tell me, dude, you should be on a mic somewhere. You should be announcing. Why aren't you announcing? You should be doing something. You should be doing. He was so supportive of me. And I'm like, God, I'm a jerk. I thought you were boring the first time I met you.
You're like, you're such an ass, but I love you.
Yeah, exactly. and so
that's kind of like Kurt feels about me.
I could tell.
Yeah, vice versa, right?
Yeah.
I could tell. But yeah, so everybody's like, oh, you guys are so good. We didn't hang out. When we showed up at East Bay, we never even had a plan. Nobody sat us down and said, all right, Chase, you're going to say this, and then Tony, you'll say that, and then one of your guys' things will be this. We were so busy trying to find out who those extra 30 cars were. Yeah. We didn't have time to really come up with a plan.
Yeah, you're like, who in the hell is this Danny Sam's kid back here in the back? Like,
you know? Oh, Brian Gossel from my home state of Colorado, and all these other cars. Dale Blaney was there, right? And so it's been great this year because Chase and Anthony and Brian and I all travel together. Yeah, we get on each other's nerves, but I dare any of you to ride in a car with someone for 4 weeks straight, room with them, go work with them, and then have every meal together with them. You'll want to hurt them too. They've been great,
especially if
they're
as just picky as the eater as Curtis. Yeah, it's like, damn, Flash, we're not gonna get in shrimp tonight. Okay,
shrimp? Yeah, big shrimp guy?
No fish at all.
Oh, I thought you were saying.
No,
I thought you were saying. Sorry, man, there's no shrimp on the menu.
I'm like, damn, we're getting chicken again, huh?
It's like, well, in Southern Indiana, if he's got a craving for shrimp, he better pack it from home.
Yeah, exactly.
No, man, it's been so much fun. Brad and Kyle and the guys at Flow, the ownership group, they're incredible. They just say, go put on the race, right? Kyle's not around at all the races, so that stinks. But, dude, he was great. He made a beeline to me at East Bay. He cut across the parking lot to come shake my hand and say, we're excited to have you. And that was a huge deal because it's Kyle Larson, right?
It's young money, baby.
Yeah, and Brad's an incredible leader. He just wants us to have the tools we need to do our job. Kendra Jacobs and Mike Hess are kind of like the more day-to-day operational over top of us.
Everybody that I spoke to says Kendra Jacobs is the one that makes it go around.
Everything you see in this office, like the checks behind us, the trophies, pretty much anything in here, Kendra's had a hand in, if not created, right? Yeah. And Chase and I and Brian kind of report to her. We report to Mike a lot too. Everybody's just done fantastic. And the coolest part has been, this isn't the World of Outlaws. We don't have an office. You're in our office right now, right? Yeah. I'm the only one here. Okay. If you go to the WRG offices in Concord, dude, I don't know how many people there are. There's a lot. And we don't have that. Our entire crew is on the road. And that means everybody has to do like 3 jobs. when we get to the track, Chase and I are hanging banners. It's rare to see a traveling series announcing crew zip tying banners to the chain link fence by the outhouse. Okay. So, and that's not because, we're selfless and wonderful guys. It's because we're being told, if you want to announce tonight, if you want to work here, you're helping with signage.
Well, here's the thing though. I mean, you guys, it's so, I don't know, organic. Everybody works together, and it doesn't matter what it is. We got to get it done, because not that we're the next big thing. You're here. I mean, you are here. You're live every night of the week. If you screw up, everybody sees it. The organic nature of the whole crew, just like, it's going to work. I mean, it just has to.
Yeah.
And besides the races, yes,
it has to. And it's not just Chase and I. I mean, Anthony Creaney, timing and scoring official, he's up there making sure everybody's times come in and scoring happens. But 4 hours before any cars go on track, he's sitting there doing the draw. And they're handing out tire certificates to teams that picked up hard luck awards. They're going through the pits and finding guys that get their free Hoosier tire, right? Walker helps with that. Creaney, Mike Hess, his wife Ashley, they're in there running the trailer hours leading up to the race. Kendra is there. Kendra's awesome. Like, I think sometimes women in the sport get a really bad knock for, like, people go, oh, she probably doesn't, work that hard. She's a higher up. She probably tells you guys what to do and where to hang the banners. She's the first one with banners under her arm and a fistful of zip ties going, what about there? Can we go there? And she's beating us out there to go hang stuff up. And it's a group. I described it at the end of the season as it's a staff full of racers who just want to go race. Are any of us driving the cars other than Brad? No. But we just want to be there and put on events, compete. We want to put on the best events in the country, and I think we do.
Everybody can't be a race car driver.
Well, we say
exactly.
We say that
to make it happen.
Like, our motto is racers race.
Exactly.
Racers race. And it doesn't have to be the car driver.
No.
It's the guy that's driving the hauler overnight. Yeah. And a lot of times that's the driver too, but it takes the racing community, everybody needs everybody. People that shit on each other has got podcasts. People that shit on each other, like you, he sucks at announcing. I hate to, like, we all got to be in this together. Right. If you got an issue with something that I'm doing at the racetrack, like come to me and tell me, hey, I'd like for you to do it this way. But there may be 10 other people that say, that guy sucks. His ideal's terrible. I love what you're doing. So we all are in this together.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about High Limit. It's first off, it's like when they sit down and said, all right, what tracks we're going to go to? We're going to badass racetracks. Yeah. Like, you went to the ditch, West Memphis, Arkansas. World of Outlaws.
Love that place.
I'm like, I don't want to get no beef between. World of Outlaws said for 10 years, we're not going there.
Yeah.
High Limit goes there. Guess what? Oh, yeah, we're going right back. Well, no shit. Because it's a badass racetrack.
Yeah, and it was.
I mean, it just is.
That was a super fun night. That was a super fun night. The fence, that was a bummer. Right?
Yeah, that's part of it.
It really shouldn't be, but like, those guys do that work to that place and get it fixed up a little bit, and I promise you they're going to have discussions about going back there because the racing was so good and the crowd came out like crazy.
Oh yeah.
West Memphis, Arkansas scared me a little bit. I don't know.
You wouldn't last in my neighborhood, dude.
I believe you.
West Memphis, Arkansas felt like
that's where we stayed. That's where we stayed.
That's where we stayed at last time we were there.
Really?
Yeah, right across the street from the casino. We
stayed at the casino.
Yeah, we were in the same parking lot.
Pretty much. It was the first casino, and I'm not a big casino guy. You'd have to talk to Chase about this. He's the casino guy. But that one in West Memphis, is the casino technically in West Memphis? Is that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was the first casino I'd ever been through out of maybe the 8 I've been in my life that I had to go through metal detectors to get onto the gambling floor. I'm like, oh boy, that's what we're dealing with here.
You did go to the Bass Pro Shop though, right?
Yes, we did.
That Bass Pro is badass.
That's worth it. Yeah. The racing's worth it. The track's awesome, but man, that was so cool.
I know it. That is the coolest place.
Did you know that, or did you just guess that?
No, it was the first time we went.
Oh, man.
No, I said I had to just ask you if you went, because if not, I was going to tell you, make sure you go next time.
Spencer Baston and his now wife and I ran over there, and we filmed a little bit of content because he was sponsored by True Timber at the time, and that place is, you fish, I fish, being outdoors. That place is like, there's a hotel in that thing.
Oh yeah, hotels.
I'm planning on, if we go back there in the future, I'm going to say, guys, you stay at the casino. I'm staying at the Bass Pro Shop.
Well, we actually looked up to see how much the rooms was because we're planning on staying there if we go.
Is it bad?
Nah, it's not bad.
It's not too terrible. What's really cool about that Bass Pro is, I went to a basketball event there when it was the Pyramid, when it was the arena.
Yeah.
So like, and I walked in, I'm thinking, there's no way they're going to, this is going to be generic. I walked in, I was like, holy shit, this is awesome.
Yeah.
And I'm not a real big outdoor person, I grew up in the hood.
Right.
So, I mean, we'll be outdoor in my neighborhood.
Your idea of shooting's a little bit different than the idea of shooting at Bass Pro Shops.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But seriously, though, I think you guys go to the right racetracks for what you're trying to do. You're not just accepting any track. There's obviously a theme behind, like, if it's slow and slick, we're probably not going to be there. Just,
right.
From a fan's point of view, because every racetrack you go to is pretty good. Or as you would say, slimy, being all new and all.
Yeah, wet, slimy, heavy, heavy, slick.
But honestly, the whole high limit thing, I'm a big proponent. I love it. I think I love all sprint car racing. I prefer a non-wing than a wing, but
same.
But I love high limit.
I got to be careful because I'm paid by a wing sprint car series. Yeah. But it's like I'm with you, right? I heard your interview with Pat. You said it yourself. Non-wing sprint car racing to you said was the most entertaining form of racing you've seen.
It is,
and I really still do stand by that. I love non-wing sprint car racing.
Yeah. And like to me, but. You talk about Brad and them; they were non-wing guys too, so they're gonna let you slide when you say that love because I've seen Brad and Kyle.
Yeah, that's where he got his name made. Really, honestly,
I've seen those kids. Jack Slash filming them, running up and down the road. I've been to the, a lot of people don't know this, but Lincoln Park raced on Thursday nights all because of Jack Slash, because he was doing a YouTube show and he got some sponsors together. So the guys at Lincoln Park was like, well, if you can guarantee me 20 cars. So Brian Clausen, Jack Slash, and Larson, they all, Larson was like, I'll race anything, anywhere, obviously. But Brian Clausen and Tim Clausen and Jack Slash kind of, we had an extra night of racing in Indiana for a summer just because of Clausen Marshall Motorsports.
Right.
But I love non-wing sprint car racing. But one thing that I do like about High Limit, it kind of reminds me of USAC back in the day when they were on ESPN.
Yeah.
You've got young kids, you've got veterans, but they're racing with each other, and you can tell everybody's having a good time. It's nobody's really uptight.
No.
That's just as a fan, perspective. I'm not knocking World of Outlaws. Because I love World of Outlaws as well. But when you see the two different sides, the way things are done, some people say, High Limit's not quite as professional. Oh, they're super professional. Oh, they're just having a good time while they're doing it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
they're really efficient with the races though too. They get in, they get out.
And that's a Mike Hess. That's all Mike Hess, right? Because he's the one up there calling the shots and deciding. You just said it. You don't want to start any beef or say anything negative about the World of Outlaws. I don't either. I'm just going to tell you exactly what I've been told. Okay. And of course, rarely is someone going to come up to me at a high limit race and go, "Man, the Outlaws are great." Right. Yeah. So I understand that I'm only hearing a portion of it, but a very well known full-time wing sprint car driver came up to me, and he's been full-time with both series now. And everybody at home can do their math and maybe pull other clues out of the story and try to figure out who I'm talking about. I won't name him just because he hasn't told me it's okay to or not. But we had a very prominent, very well-known full-time former full-time outlaw. This past year was a full-time high roller, and he came up to us not even halfway through the season, and he just said, "Man," he goes, I've gone and hit some of those outlaw shows lately, and we said, "Yeah, we're happy for you. Running well, it's good for you. Go make money." And he said, "It's just so much more comfortable here." And by here, he meant the high limit pit area. And I said, "Why? What do you mean by that, driver X?" And he goes, "Man," one, it helps that everybody on this side's a little bit younger. It's like Anthony Carini, Brian Walker. They're in pretty important roles, right? Brian, I call him the social media guy. He has a lot more influence than just social media. Anthony Carini and Mike Hess are very close with each other personally. Anthony and Mike talk about a lot of things. Anthony has input, has influence on how things go. So it's a younger, controlled staff. And he just said, this driver said, "Man, you go to the trailer to draw at an outlaw race, or you go here, you go do that, and it's just not as light. It's not as free. It's not as comfortable. It's not as loose. Loose is the word I'm looking for. And Kurt, you just said, some people might say how High Limit comes off not professional. I don't know. Look at the money we're paying. I don't think you have those kind of purses if we're not professional. Yeah. Look at the staff that left the World of Outlaws. Nobody came up to us with guns to our head and said, "If you don't, come work for High Limit, we're going to shoot you." Yeah.
So that conversation didn't have in my neighborhood then.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But there are some people who like to throw around the term poach. Well, again, it's kind of hard to poach the willing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And again, I'm not trying to sling mud. I'm just telling you the facts. And I'm telling you that one driver that had that sentiment to us was not the only driver that came up and echoed stuff like that. Again, it's rare. You're not going to have someone come up to you and go, dude, I just had the best time at your competitor's event, right? Yeah. Just like we don't expect them to go to Outlaw or any other sanctioning body and go, man, you guys aren't doing it like high. Nobody's going to do that because that's just stupid. You're not going to do that. But yeah, we got a really good staff. And one other thing you said about racers, I look at the term racer, and to me, it's not just the guy that drives the car. It's not just the guy in victory. A racer is someone who just wants to compete in the sport of racing. I think we're competing by putting on the best events in the country. The drivers are competing by going out there and racing each other for wins. The crew chiefs and the crew guys are competing against each other to have the best car out there. So the high limit staff is a staff of racers, and that's the thing I would say about our group.
Now that's exactly what
that's what we need.
That's what we need. That's what I'm saying. Like racers race, and I've been to both. I've been to every sanctioning body you can pretty much throw at, with late models, modifieds, sprint cars, midgets, and the high limit group. The fan experience, the experience at the racetrack. When you walk in, it just feels different.
That's a big Kendra Jacobs thing.
You know what I'm saying? It just feels different. You're like, you walk in, it's like, okay, because everybody kind of gets programmed to the USAC or World of Outlaw way of doing things, and then when you get to the high limit, you guys got to the high rollers with the fans, the draw, the rolling the dice.
And, and they've tried things too. Like remember the Fan Fest?
Yeah.
Everybody, oh my God, people just told us you guys are idiots. That's never gonna work. What are you thinking? Well, guess what? We tried it. It went a lot longer than people thought it would, and then we realized, okay, it doesn't work perfectly. So it got shelved and it went away, and it's either going to come back or it won't, right? But my thing about that is, God, at least they tried something.
Yeah, that's my thing. Like
at least it wasn't that old. Oh, well, we've been doing it this way for 50 years. That's great. How's it working for you?
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Are you telling me it can't be improved at all?
Yeah. We've got this racing thing figured out completely. Everybody knows exactly what to. It's learn as you go, improvise as you go.
And people are changed.
Exactly. You bring up a great point. You bring up a great point because the fan is changing. The race fan is changing. It's not someone who can just go sit in the grandstands for a 7-hour program and leave going, gee, Willikers, that was fun. Let's get home before
the sun comes up.
Yeah, exactly. Wasn't that fun, Walt? And it's like, no, this isn't Leave It to Beaver anymore. People are different. Whether we all agree with it or not, I can't stand the pace of life and the way my generation and younger acts, where it's like, man, if you don't get their attention in 5 seconds, you lose them. I don't like that, but you're right, Kurt. You have to absolutely play to the audience you're playing in front of, and the audience these days is different.
Well, that's what we did a whole show where we went over streaming, social media, TikTok, and like I'm not a big TikTok guy, but I know in order to get kids at the racetrack, you gotta go where they are. You better have stuff on TikTok. You better have stuff on YouTube Reels.
You gotta go where they are.
I mean, you have to, because there's a lot of kids like. I went to the races. That's all we did. There's a lot of kids don't know what race cars are, but if they see a cool video on TikTok, they see Brady Bacon flipping out of the racetrack. Like, what in the hell is this?
You're hitting.
You know what I'm saying?
You're hitting on what we made Road to Indy TV. I'm telling you, you go look up some of those episodes that I hosted from like 2016 to 2021. And you'll click on segments in that 20-minute show, and it's us out there playing beach volleyball. Or I fenced with a kid. You know what fencing is?
Oh, yeah.
The sword fighting. Yeah. I fenced with one of the drivers because we knew we can't just show them race highlights, because guess what? It's a 45-minute race timed, and there were 4 passes in the whole thing. We can't show them that and expect them to be a fan of it. We need to show them the driver beating the crap out of the host with a fence, and the host is wearing a tiny little helmet. We went and did food challenges. There's no way
you had a tiny little helmet on.
No, they gave me one of his helmets, and he was like an average sized human. And you're sitting here looking at my watermelon on my shoulders, and they're like, "Yeah, just put it on, Tony." And I'm like, "I can't see out of it." And this kid just starts whacking me with a fake sword.
Well, the funny thing, Tony said, "Do I know what fencing is?" He looked at me like, I'm breaking in something. That's my fencing. We're going through the fence. I mean, come on, man.
Yeah, I don't know, dude. I don't know what they have down where you're from. I mean, you're talking about they don't tear down good neighborhoods. Well, there's not a lot of fencing in bad neighborhoods.
Oh no, there's plenty of fences on the outside.
Yeah, there's fencing with holes in it. But no, I mean, like you're hitting it. It's like you got to make it relatable, right? And you got to go where the kids are. And you again, you bring up lots of great points, and I just want to hit on something you said. You said, oh, we got this racing thing figured out. We can't make it any better. Well, I'd argue with you. The World of Outlaws, USAC, Highland, they do have the racing part figured out. It's a dirt track with 900 horsepower sprint cars on it. Don't touch it. It's fine the way it is. What what people think they've got all figured out is the event. You don't have the event figured out. It's the Outlaws, USAC, MOA, IRA. I don't care. Power I. Give me any sanctioning body you want that runs ovals on dirt. That part's fine. Keep them on dirt. You got it figured out. You don't need to change a thing, right? It's putting on the event. It's what are you doing to engage those fans that are coming and going, man, I could be at home playing a video game. Yeah. I could be at home watching this on my phone. I could be at home doing anything but this. How are you engaging with those kids, those young adults, those older adults who all of them just want to relate, right? And you need to find a way to grab their attention when there's not cars on track, when there's a yellow flag, when there's a red flag. What are we doing to keep them engaged? Because we'll lose them if we're not careful.
And no truer words could be spoke right there. I want to thank you for coming on the show. We can do this all night. I mean, we can go.
You guys are the ones that drove 2 hours. I should be thanking you.
Well, no, that's what racers race, man. That's what we do. Yeah. But from a guy that said we fake it till we make it, he made it. He's living his dream. He's living the life on the road, and there's no better guy for our sport because he's been beat up. He's been told he's great. He's been everywhere in between, and we really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule because I'll tell a little inside baseball here. I ran into him at the Chili Bowl, said, hey, what's up? I'd like for you to come on. And I know you're super busy. Like, we'll meet back up when you get to Indy. And we set up a deal, and then, it fell through, and then, he said, I'll message you when I get back.
You're talking about my deal?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
man.
And then when we get back, you said, boom. You messaged me and say, hey, I'm back in town. When can we do this? And that's stand up to me because you could have blew us off and said, that's cool. They want to talk to me, but I got other shit going on. And I appreciate that.
Well, here's the deal. I mean, here's 100% just the honest part about it. I'm just a dude that talks about race cars, right? I'm very fortunate that I get paid. And you guys are familiar with Bob Jenkins?
Yeah.
Okay, Bob's famous line was just, I'm just a race fan that got lucky. And I miss that guy a ton. And he was a great good for this sport, but I feel the exact same way because I'm just a race fan who came out to Indiana to talk about a totally different kind of race car. I got introduced to non-wing sprint car racing, and I fell in love with it, right? And I just, by 1,000 little things happening the way they just had to perfectly, I end up in this great position. And now I'm sitting here in a building rented out by freaking Kyle Larson and Brad Sweet, okay? And they're paying me to be in here and be a part of their event. So I'm the lucky SOB, right? So for you guys, for anybody, any podcast, any show that ever asks me to be a part of it, it's still an honor, right? And I also do what you guys do. I've got TLP talks. I try to film my own long form sit down interviews. And you want people to be on the show. You want people that other people know. And it's a big deal when folks make time for you. I would have loved to have done it sooner. The IMSA deal came together super last second. I got to go out there and do the Rolex 24. I didn't expect to. That was super fun. But I appreciate you guys coming all the way up from Louisville and sitting down. You got a great setup. You really, I can't believe the notes you had on me. The when you drop,
you see where it's wrote down.
We got no notes.
When you drop my grandma right there, I'm like, dude, this guy either really
he's been stalking you, man. For
he
like
knows what
2
he's
weeks.
talking about, or he's got some friends in low places. But it's an honor to be asked on. And you guys are doing something cool, right? Because this is a sport that needs to get out to as many people as possible. And yeah, are you guys pulling in Sports Center numbers? Probably. I don't know. Maybe not.
I would say if they are, Sports Center's in trouble.
Just below Sports Center, maybe.
If Sports Center's pulling our numbers, watch out.
You're like Fox Sports 1, right?
3.
But,
Fox Sports 3.
ESPN 8, the Ocho. But like at the end of the day, like, why wouldn't you want more people talking about your favorite thing? So you guys have this show. You come talk to cool. I mean, I'm on. You guys talk to Dave Darland. That's a big deal. I'm on the same platform that you guys interviewed with him on. So I appreciate you guys taking the time and letting me tell some stories because I'm the lucky one.
Right. The man who faked it till he made it. Tony LaPorta, thanks for coming on.
Faked it till he made it. I'm gonna have to use that.
Well, you can have it, man. I didn't copyright it or nothing. It's all you, bro.
Well, yeah, faked it till he made it. We can I get that tattooed? Maybe you should make a shirt with that on it.
Please don't talk about shirts.
Grammar be damned.
Yeah.
Faked it till he made it.
Yeah.
This has been Trading Sliders.
Thank you. This week's deep dives was Tony LaPorta, the master of faking it till you make it, Flash.
Yeah.
So we went up to Indianapolis and were very gracious of him to stay in the office late and meet us in Indianapolis when we got off work and because he didn't have to do that. He's a busy guy. Just got in from Daytona and working all over the country. He was working as we got there. There was high limit checks, trophies, everything all over. It looked like
getting everything in order.
Yeah, well, I hope they're getting in order because it looked like a warehouse. Looked like I did the organizational skills there. But no, Tony LaPorta was very gracious and allowed us to come up there and hang out for a couple hours, and it was a really fun interview, real fascinating. I've always been a fan of Tony LaPorta. I think he got a raw end of a deal.
Yeah.
But like he said, it's just part of the journey. It's, if it didn't happen that way, who would have known working for High Limit and not living out of his dream job? So
yeah, exactly. Things work out for a reason sometimes. Yeah,
most things usually happen for a reason. That's just just the way it is. You
just gotta be good enough to roll with it.
Yeah, it's funny. We got to fake it till you make it, the slogan.
Yeah.
When I said that, he was like, I'm still in that. I'm like, that's all right. Like, that's the way I live my life, bro. You can have it. I'm past that luck on to somewhere else. But yeah, it was a really fun trip up there. One thing I do want to talk about before we get off here, we don't do a very good job at promoting ourselves. No. But we've had a bunch of people reach out, and there's this guy named Daryl. I'm sorry, I'm blanking on your last name, but you listened to all the episodes. You know who I'm talking about here.
Yeah.
The guy was going from Iowa to Utah on a family trip.
Yeah.
And he stumbled onto the Jack Slash interview, Flash, and evidently he really, really either likes us or has no friends at all.
Yeah.
But he listened to every single episode back to back on the way to Utah. So, Daryl, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
Yeah, we really appreciate that. I wish I would have done a better job and, wrote down your last name so I can give you your props on that. But we've had a bunch of people reach out about the show. And, it's funny. We're the show. We're like the gift that keeps on giving. I had somebody refer that to us, and I thought that was pretty cool. I was like, really? He's like, yeah, you're doing such good, positive, stuff that people want to be like you. And I said, okay, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah,
but yeah,
we don't mind.
Yeah, we don't mind. But
that's the best form of flattery, I think.
That's what they say. Compliment or. Yeah, I don't know how that works. Yeah. But in all honesty, guys, thank you for listening to the show. We really do appreciate it. We know some of them are long, but the numbers say it doesn't matter if our show is an hour long or 2 hours long. Last week we had roughly right at 1,600 views last week on that show, and we really appreciate that. We really do.
Yeah. Still baffles me that people want to get up and listen to us on a Monday morning.
Yeah,
because
I'm shocked.
Because we get a lot of them the first day.
Yeah, I'm like, they know it's coming out on Monday. I'm thinking, damn, now I got something to live up to. I got to be ready on Monday.
Yeah.
I kind of thought that, like, when I said that maybe, hell, I don't know, sometimes it'd be Tuesday or Wednesday. Nobody would even notice. But no, wrong on that.
Yeah,
definitely
if it
wrong.
don't come out, we get phone calls.
Yeah, like, bro, I got a real job. I got a real life. I'm not just sitting in an office all day. Like I'm working all day.
Yeah.
Like I can't just make time and make this happen. So, but we really do appreciate it.
Maybe for our wives to pick up some of the slack.
Yeah, it'd be nice. Yeah, that would be nice. Was that a thumb or a finger?
I think she actually gave us a thumbs up.
Okay.
I was figuring the other at first.
Well, knowing her, it could be either or. But if you, one other thing before we get off here, if you're still listening, 2 hours or something minutes in, that if anybody wants to sponsor the show, like I said, just reach out. Every little bit helps, getting up and down the road and stuff, because we try to do all of our interviews in person. So you get a better how you say that word? Camaraderie?
Camaraderie, I guess, yeah.
Yeah, I screw that word up too. So we get a better conversation. How about that?
Yeah,
So,
there you go.
But that's so we try to do everything in person and in-house, and sometimes is it tough? Yeah. Is it tiring? Yeah. Getting, like last week, it was Monday or Tuesday, whatever it was, Tuesday, getting in at 2:00 in the morning on a work night. Yeah, it was a little tiring, but it's all worth it.
It's still fun.
Yeah. Tony LaPorta said, he said to us, I just respect y'all's hustle. I respect the hustle. You guys coming up here on a Tuesday night, knowing you got to get up and go to work in the morning.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, that's just what we do.
Yeah. Well, it makes it worth it when you get somebody like that to tell you that they respect.
Yeah,
what
they
you're
respect
doing,
it. Yeah, but when a guy like that who makes sacrifices in the business and says, "Hey, I respect what you guys are doing."
Yeah.
And one thing, like when we get there, he tells us, hey, I listened to this, I listened to that, I love what you guys are doing. That means the world to us.
Yeah.
It really does. So it means that we're doing something positive, and hopefully, people are getting something out of it, and I think they are. I mean, I'm pretty sure they are.
Yeah.
It looks like there's a lot being get out of it. So, but to the people that's asking about the old racetrack segment, we got another one in the works. And you're gonna really, really like this one. I'll just put it to you this way: for the people that's been asking about it, we're gonna do it once a month because we want it to be special. It's not something we want to do every week.
Right.
But the next old racetrack segment that's coming up, it's a pretty good one. Let's just leave it at that. But you got anything else, Flash?
No, I don't think so. I think we've about covered everything this week.
Yeah, I think so. Next week I'll be going to Vegas, so we'll have. When the show comes out, well, the show will be out exactly like it always is. This is just on our end. So,
right, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Me and Flash, we got to work on something off air.
Yeah.
But the show will still be out on Monday like it always is.
Oh,
so,
yeah. We'll figure it out.
I forgot the slaughter of the week.
Oh, yeah.
Slaughter of the week goes to Kyle Larson for winning back-to-back races at Volusia. And the not-so-slaughter of the week goes to Garrett Smith for taking out half of the field at Scrapper. And he's going to turn under a guy. Oh, shit, we're going to wreck.
Yeah.
So I need to put that further up.
Yeah, further up in the middle.
Until next time, we'll be trading slaughters.